From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training Podcast. I'm going to be your host for this episode, and my name is Bill. Who else is hosting?
I'm Vicky.
And I'm Jennifer.
And we have it correct again. We have a returning guest. We have, he's going to have one of the longest intros in the history of the world, nicknamed The Rocket. He's a journalist for Motor Trend. He has won at least 4 SCCA World Challenge Championships. He's the North American Touring Car Championship in 1996. He's got at least 3 SCCA World Challenge TC Championships. And he's won the 24-hour Daytona twice. He's been on our podcast twice. He has hosted 2 of my favorite shows on Motor Trend channel. And we're every time we see him, we always say, "Can you please bring it back?" And he says, "It's not my call," but we still lost. So we have Randy Pobst. Welcome back, Randy.
Bill, thanks a million. I think you left out a Firestone Firehawk race win in 1989.
I did.
At Atlanta, but you did a great job with that resume.
You know what?
Remember half that stuff.
It's an impressive resume.
You know what you did though? You were confirming the podcast today, and your auto spell checker fixed everything, and it called us the Garbage Heroes, which I thought was hilarious when I read the picture. So yes, this is the Garbage Heroes in Training podcast. So that was fantastic.
Awesome.
Sometimes it's more appropriate than others.
Start as garbage, and then you work until you make it garage.
Yep. Well, we do race low-cost endurance racing some of the time, so it's more appropriate than others. So, so Randy, we covered how you got started with your cars and your racing when you were going through and you were just driving by and you saw this autocross thing. But just in case somebody didn't pay attention, maybe we should go back to how we got started in this and how you developed it into actually a profession that everybody always wants to do until they see how much work you actually do.
Work?
Well,
Unwork.
The non-driving part is the work part, right?
Thank goodness I was lucky enough to stumble into some way to make a little money playing, because I'm not good at work, but I'm really good at playing.
Yeah.
I should be like the activities director on a cruise ship, except I'm not a cruise ship kind of guy, unless it only had 2 people on it. But
and you don't look like Julie,
the
cruise director.
Wow.
The Love Boat.
Love Boat.
I remember the Love Boat.
Obviously, we do too.
All do.
We do too.
I think I looked more like that nerdy guy that was the purser.
Gopher?
Gopher, maybe. Yeah.
Was that his name?
The purser.
Purser.
Yeah.
And half of your listeners are right now Googling the Love Boat because they've
right.
never heard of it.
They're like, what's that?
I bet the Love Boat was on about when I started my career. Wasn't that 70s?
Plus
show?
or minus, yeah.
It was that 70s show when all the shows were 70s shows.
Yeah, that's when all the classics were new. Yeah.
Yes. And I started my career in autocross, and I discovered it in an ad in a little shopping news, because I always read that because I've always loved classified ads. That's my favorite reading. And it said, race your own car, $5. And I already knew I loved corners. I was not a hot rod or drag race kind of guy, not a V8, put a cam and an Edelbrock and a Holly on it. I had a Fiat 850 Spider, my first car. And the Fiat 850 was funny because going around a corner fast, it would slow down at full throttle. Like it didn't matter what corner, what speed. You'd go in there, nail the throttle, and it would go. Anyway, I started out autocrossing. I had a super cool car, a Datsun 510 two-door that was lowered, four-spoke American Libra wheels. And I was pretty good at it, and I loved it. Bill, the feeling of getting on the autocross course for the first time, knowing that I'm on the clock and I'm going as fast as I can, even though we're in a parking lot and we're not getting over about 45, 50 miles an hour, there was a joy in that for me. It nailed something in my warped mental capacity and construction and DNA. And from that first fun run on, I've run every single track, competition, speed, autocross, road race event I can. It's killing me not to be at one now.
Yeah, I understand.
Instant addiction. And that's how I started was autocross in college. I could afford
The gateway drug.
it.
So the first one wasn't free, but it was $5. So that's pretty close.
In college, that was a lot of money.
True. Absolutely true.
In the 70s, I used to get $20 a week to live on from my dear old dad until I started delivering papers.
Now that's like coffee and a snack at Starbucks.
Barely.
Barely. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Our daughter's just turned 14 and she's got this plan. She's like, I'm stocking up on ramen so when I'm a college student, I can eat. Don't know.
I don't know where that came from.
Robins?
I don't know. Ramen. She's got this thing. I don't know. I think,
like robbing places, like robbing a bank? Or
No.
like the
gas station or
No,
like-
noodle soup, ramen, noodle soup.
oh, ramen. Oh,
the other one. That's okay.
that won't be the last time. Something about 40 years of racing.
It's not like there's any loud
Maybe
cars.
is honing her skills as robbing.
She's going to be robbing into.
Well, she might be robbing the ramen. I don't know, but
Robin?
Nope. Her name's Mia. No, just kidding.
Ramen is about the most cost-efficient food that there is down at the grocery store.
It does. It's the cost per dollar. Yeah.
When I was in college, it was bean burritos at Taco Bell, and today it's bean burritos.
Bean burritos.
Back then, I think they were, what were they? 29 cents,
Yeah.
maybe 19 cents.
Yeah, they weren't much. They're probably still the same beans too.
Still barely. They're still barely $1.
Yeah.
I mean, I've learned how to live cheap. Like drinking water. I have gotten water, not soda pop, iced tea, whatever, since I was in college, right? And about, I don't know, a long time ago, I did the math on that. I eat out a lot. I'm always traveling, and I always get the cheapskate free water. That's what I call it to the young person behind the counter.
Mhm.
And when I checked about 15 years ago, my estimate was around $18,000.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
It does add up.
Mm-hmm.
It pays to be cheap.
It does. You
But
can
don't
keep
be
racing.
retired. Cheap racing. Well, that's why I like the endurance racing you're talking about. The budget endurance racing
Yep.
Mhm.
is combination. Well, actually, it's not that cheap because the races are so long. I don't know. I think the races might be too long. 14 hours. I mean, I have an old Volvo and I plan to run it at a Champ Car at Road Atlanta in about 2 weeks. And I'm going, I'm going to wear that thing out.
Yep.
My thoughts on the budget racing and the lemons racing for us right now is that I know I'm going to make mistakes, and I can walk away from a car and not feel bad about it. And I can go and learn and do a new build. Now, if I have to put in $10,000 per race to put a car in, I don't think I could walk away from a car and just build another one and hop back in. I think I would have buyer's remorse at that point. But as we hone and get back up into proper racing, where we can actually get behind a wheel and have all of our skills in line, then I feel I can level up to like a champ car or like an SCCA or something like that.
You bring up a great point there for anybody, all of our listeners. Anything that you take on track, you have to be ready to say goodbye to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I'm lucky. I've had the Moose, my Flying Moose Volvo for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I have had and I have seen cars leave pit lane and never come back. Anything can happen. It's not necessarily you. I mean, a car can come down out of the sky. We were running second at Daytona in the 24-hour, one of those Rolex 24s we almost won, but didn't.
Yep.
And my co-driver, John Littlechild, a fantastic driver and one of the greatest people I've ever met, frankly, he's driving along in the low lane, about 150 miles an hour over in NASCAR 4, minding his own business. And up above him in the high lane, these two prototypes tangle. And one of them spins, comes down the road and spears him from behind.
Oh, geez.
And I saw John immediately after the crash. And he, are you okay? Yeah. I said, what happened? He goes, Randy, I don't know. Yeah, I said, what do you mean you don't know? He goes, I'm driving along. I'm in NASCAR 4. And all of a sudden, I'm spinning into the wall. I have no idea what happened. It wasn't until later we found out about this prototype losing it, coming down the banking and spearing him.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, Vicki, no matter what you go out, and no matter how good you are, at any moment, the car you love and you brought there could be destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not real often, but some people it does often.
Yeah.
It's not the goal, but yeah.
So you mentioned your Volvo that you've had for 8 years. Have you raced any? Do you have any other cars, or do you drive any other cars? And can you talk about maybe some of the other series that you've been in? We've seen you at Lucky Dog, so we
see you there. We see you dotted around everywhere.
And
it just makes us so happy when we run into you again.
Me too. Saw you in Charlotte. I was in Charlotte, Lucky Dog.
Yeah, we saw you in
It was
Charlotte.
a disaster.
I was there for day 2.
We saw you in Charlotte, and then all of a sudden we're on Instagram and we see you driving at Laguna Seca, and we're like, I just saw him like 5 hours ago. How is he driving at Laguna Seca? And then the next day, boom, he's in Charlotte again. I'm like, he's got a teleporter. I don't know.
Yeah, we met you in Portland.
That's right.
You were right next to us in Portland. We gave you the car, and then it blew up.
Yes. Well, thank you.
But it was so much fun.
I know, and I'm really like, I really don't think I did it. I hope.
God, it wasn't. It wasn't.
That's okay.
No, the important thing is that we fixed it.
Yep.
We did
at the last hour.
But I tell you what, we had so much fun, car or no car, because I mean, just for us, our racing is not so much just behind the wheel. It's us being together as a team. It's us learning about the car. It's us learning about driving. It's us socializing and networking. Driving is part of it, but it's not always our end goal. So
that car blew up, but I'll tell you what, we put a new engine in it and we got it running again. And it was the first time we'd ever done that in that amount of time. So it was awesome for us.
We were so happy that we did that. We're all high-fiving each other, laughing the whole time.
That was a Lucky Dog race?
Yeah.
That was in Portland.
In Portland.
Yeah. We met you.
That award
I don't remember if you remember. It was a little white Honda.
Yes, I think I do remember. And I think I remember what it sounded like when the rod started.
Because I remember he was saying he had just because the car the weekend we were coming out to get rent that car to go drive, and the people the week before wrecked the car. So they had like 7 days to put a car together, but we didn't really know that that was kind of happening.
Yep.
So it was a okay, let's get this car ready because these people are coming to rent. So we're not really exactly sure how well that car is going to perform.
And they did a great job.
And they did a great job. And we had so much fun with it, and we put that car back together and laughed the whole time.
Yeah.
That's a great example of garage heroes in training. Changing an engine and getting a car running during the race, right?
Never did it before.
Still haven't done it any other time.
No. It was awesome though. We had so much fun in Portland.
Okay, Vicky.
Well,
Okay.
I want to go back to Jennifer and say
I
Okay.
know.
I'm
I
really
was like,
glad-
Vicky, let Jennifer answer a
I'm
question.
sorry.
No,
This is the bulldozer.
I took us on a tangent, which I do.
That's
But
okay.
Jennifer, I'm really glad you asked me that question because I have a good story. I'm really proud of this. I have 5 race car projects going.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
Just watched your Firebird blow up a little bit.
oh, you did great.
Just
I've done videos about it on my Randy Pobst YouTube channel, which is still new. We're getting it rolling.
you have
It's just a
20
little snowball.
you have 24,000 people who subscribe to your little snowball. You're doing okay, sir.
I'm proud of that. All it took was a horrible crash at Pikes Peak.
Oh, yeah, we
was
saw
not-
that too.
That was not
Let me
pretty.
tell you about my 5 car projects, race car
Okay.
projects.
Yes.
And one is a 1985 VW Golf. This car is special because it's the car that I raced when I started racing in 1985.
Ooh.
I bought it from Volkswagen in a special program for the Volkswagen Cup Series. And I also ran it in Firestone Firehawk. And I bought it back a good 20 years ago. And
Mhm.
it spent many years sitting in a shop in Chicago. And there's I could write a book on how that all happened. I lived in Atlanta and Florida. But anyway, I got the car back and it's now at a shop in Denver getting a mild restoration with an amazing young man named Sterling Chase, which is also the name of a housing development in Daytona Beach, Florida, by the way. I
Oh,
sent him a picture.
okay.
Oh, like Sterling, look, you're famous. Anyway, he's getting it running again. I'm excited about that. And it will end up at Lemon's races, maybe Champ Car.
That's awesome.
And then I have a BMW M3, E36 M3.
Hmm.
And the story behind that is I'm talking to my old friend Lou Mindar that I've known for, oh my God, I don't know, a lot of years. And he had called me a few years ago about this M3, saying, should I buy it? And he's moving and we were just talking, saying hi. He says, yeah, I'm moving back to Florida from Tennessee. And I've got this M3 and I took it to a shop. It's just too much money to repair it. I don't want to mess with it now. And I've called a couple places in town. I'm going to give it to one of the shops. And I'm like, what? You're giving it away, Lou? I'm hooking up the trailer. And I did. I mean, that moment, I went out the door, hooked up the trailer, drove 4 hours to Nashville and picked up that car. And it was all tire walled down the driver's side, but ran when crashed. And so I got hooked up with a local tech school here in Gainesville called Lanier Tech. I think that might be a national brand. Have you ever heard of a Lanier Tech?
Mm-mm.
No?
I think so.
And they
Wait, I think I have.
maybe.
Yeah.
I think maybe, but the chief instructor is a racer friend of mine, pro racer who got into the school business for more security, I think. And they've already done all the body work. And I've supplied a bunch of suspension and running gear from a whole AST suspension setup, shocks, springs. And I bought a bunch more parts from Bimmer World. James Clay is an old friend of mine. And so we're getting this car together. And it was on hold throughout COVID because they closed the school. Dang
Oh, okay.
virus. And school's back in session. And John called me and said he thinks it's going to be done this semester. So that's number 2. Number 3 is, of course, the Flying Moose, my Volvo 740. And that's a long-term project, but I've got a new guy involved who has 3 Volvo wagons, one of which is a Lemons racer. And so he's perfect.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we're working to improve the Flying Moose all the time. And it's actually getting pretty good. Well, like at that Charlotte race, I don't know if you guys noticed. Did you
It was
notice I
quick.
led overall for a while?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, we did, sir.
That was a
Yes,
big
sir.
moment in the life of the
Mhm.
Flying Moose.
It
Mhm.
was. We were.
And guess what? 1 gear.
Yes, we remember.
all we had was fourth gear.
Yep.
That's right.
Anyway, okay,
It's
that's
a momentum car, though.
That's 3.
Momentum car, and it has a wide power band. And Charlotte, well, a lot of the track was perfectly fine in fourth gear for the Moose.
Mhm.
Has a lot of bottom end. It pulls really well in the 2000s, which,
Oh,
by
okay.
the way, makes it a lousy race car because by the time you get to about 5,000, it doesn't pull very well anymore. Has the power band of about a 1982 Cavalier.
I was going to say, it sounds like a diesel a little bit.
No, worse, the Iron Duke.
Ah, it's even
You
better.
kids don't remember those cars.
We do because
That
we
would've
race
been a
lemons. So
Vega or a
we've seen them.
Honda or a- Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4 is a World Challenge Firebird from the 90s that I used to race
wow.
against. And the guy named Mark Dixon from Colorado used to own it, raced it for years. The logbook is like this thick. And this car was owned by a friend of mine, and there's a whole hoarder story that goes with it. Short story is when he passed away, he had 110 cars on their property. And so I've gotten a couple of good deals from his wife, Ann Keller, who's a good friend of mine that I've coached in her Corvette.
Mhm.
110 cars.
It's a lot. See, I don't have that many, Vicky.
No, you.
See, he's not as bad as you thought.
Oh,
Good.
we just had a garage sale. Put it that way.
And I
Sep-
missed.
several garages we sold.
Yes.
Okay, so this
yeah.
Firebird was a World Challenge car. It ran a race in about 2008, was driven into a trailer, and there it sat. I picked it up about a year ago and brought it home and not knowing what I'd get. And that's the video you just saw there, Bill.
Yep, just popped out a few hours ago.
And miraculously, for one, the engine was not rusted solid, which was my biggest fear.
Mhm.
It turned. And shoot, watch the video.
Absolutely.
It looks pretty exciting, I must say. It involves flames. I'll just throw that out there.
Flames are nice, unless
And
they're
then-
our car at Charlotte.
Yeah.
That was a different story.
Yeah, that was a whole different story.
Draw viewers to videos. I've got to say that. But
Yeah.
I had a tragedy with that car just night before last, but I don't know
Yeah.
if we're going to talk about that. But wait, one more project. That's only 4.
That's 4.
Okay, one more project.
Number 5 is also from Anne and her hoarder husband. And this car is another Firebird from the 90s,
Ooh.
but it's a Lemons car.
Okay.
So the World Challenge car is a big bad boy beastie that's making 500 plus horsepower. The Lemons car actually is a very bad boy beastie for a Lemons car because it's a Firebird Trans Am.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
I raced it the last time it raced, which was 7 years ago.
Mhm.
Wow.
And it's been sitting ever since. And I brought it home and I thought it had blown a clutch, but the owners were right. What it actually blew was a head gasket.
Ah.
And we're going to
So-
resurrect that. They gave me a good deal on that. So my driveway is overflowing.
So, Randy, do you work on any of your cars, or
I
do you
do.
send them out? Oh, look at you.
I know which end of the wrench is the box end.
Okay.
But I'm not really a mechanic per se. I'm kind
Just
of,
minor stuff,
yeah.
if you feel like it.
Well, when I started racing, I built my own cars and fixed the trailer, and I wore out 3 vans and I did an engine rebuild on each one, a Dodge, a Ford, and a Chevy in that order. So I've done a lot of that, and I'm proud. I never blew up a motor. They ran good. I didn't forget to tighten one of the rod nuts.
That's
But-
good.
Yeah. Have you ever built an engine, Vicky?
I have not built an engine. Right now, I'm working from the outside in. So I kind of am, really. It's like I have
Like,
already,
you started with the air filter.
well, no,
and-
I've actually been working on the hoses, and I've actually kind of taken apart the underside of the back end and reinstalled. And right now I'm getting ready to do the front end. Because
Suspension.
we have, the suspension, we have all new control arms and tie rods and everything. So I'm going to get underneath there and do all that. And right now I just put brand new struts on my race Miata, and we just did a wheel alignment on it. So I'm learning as I go at the same time.
That's great, except Miatas don't have struts.
No. The struts were on a race truck. Oh, no, I do have struts on my Miata. I have VMAXs,
You have coilovers.
coilovers.
Shocks.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have struts on my VW Golf.
Oh, okay.
Far inferior. Jennifer, have you ever built an engine?
She helped.
No, but I was a handler for an engine builder.
That counts.
Yeah.
That's about all.
Yeah.
We're in training, Randy. We're working on it.
Yeah. But I tell you though, after us going into our 4th year, I mean, we can actually look at a car and start really figuring things out now. And
That's
from when we started, which was zero, we knew
Really?
zero like 3 years ago.
really.
Yeah. So we're literally like in training.
That's wonderful.
But so Randy, you have a now dedicated Randy Pobst YouTube page.
Channel.
Are you a channel? Yes.
Channel.
Are you doing any other projects, or is everything being filtered through your channel now?
Well, I still work for other people,
Mm-hmm.
like at Motor Trend. I've been at Motor Trend now 11 years.
Wow.
Wow.
And, yeah, isn't it?
Doesn't seem like that long, but I guess it has been.
You are so lucky.
I am so lucky. I have lapped almost every supercar you can name.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's fantastic. And in fact, one of our biggest shows of the year just came out. It was delayed by the dang virus.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
but they pulled it off. And we shot it in, I think, late November. And it was just released a week or two ago. It's called Best Driver's Car.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It was excellent.
Pardon me. And the World's Greatest Drag Race. And you can find them on YouTube.
Yep.
And then all the hot laps. Some of it is only available on Motor Trend on demand, and you have to be a member, and it's only $3 a month if you catch it on the right deal, or $5 a month. But it's a great show, and all the hot laps. That's me. That's me being lucky, right? We had a Ferrari F8. We had a Porsche 911 Turbo S.
Yep.
We had
C8.
Huracan, Huracan
Yep.
Lamborghini, Evo, a C8,
C8 was there.
Shelby GT500. I mean, every one of these, Porsche GT4, Cayman, every one of them is a home run. It was amazing. And that's on YouTube. You can go see that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the other projects I do. I just got done doing a week of consulting with Hyundai on top secret cars they have coming. And basically I just drove them and gave them feedback. It was, I'm talking all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I don't know if they'll get mad at me, but I set the new record for the Veloster on their handling track
Nice.
by
I
2
like that
seconds.
car.
Nice.
And,
Excellent.
then I set the overall record by less than a second. But the guy I was with was very, very happy because that was one of his goals, was to reestablish that. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, we just had such a great time. This was in Southern Cal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do a lot of independent projects like that. And I'm in discussions with a couple different brands to become a brand ambassador,
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
which I would love to do with the right organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of a yes man, and I want to just say, yeah, I'll do it. But
Randy living his best life.
yeah, but I want to know that whatever this product is really good.
Mhm.
Right.
So I want to put my name behind, and
Mhm.
some of them aren't.
No.
But one product I was sponsored by a couple years ago was a dash cam.
Ooh.
They didn't make it because they were I think the prices were too high. They were
Mm-hmm.
trying to hit a home run on their profit margins.
Right.
It didn't work out, but I'm a true believer in dash cams. Anybody have a
Yeah.
dash cam? You
Yeah,
guys?
dash cams are popular now.
They're in our race car, but not in our street
Mhm.
cars.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a dash cam story?
Oh,
Sure.
absolutely.
I own 3 dash cams or maybe 4. And I've recently got one from a company called Van True. I'm going to throw their brand name out there, Van True, because they're great. And they're inexpensive now, you may have noticed. And I think everyone should have one. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason is for liability. If somebody hits you, you can prove you're innocent. The downside is if you crash, you need to be conscious enough to hide that camera so they don't see what you did that you know is wrong. That can happen, but I'm not too worried about what I do. I'm more worried about what that other guy does.
Always.
Right.
Always.
And so I'm going to a rally cross, which is a whole nother great subject. Let me ask you later about that. But I'm going to a rally cross late. I made a late decision. I'm towing a friend of mine's BMW, which she mistakenly stores in my driveway so I can sneak it out whenever I want it. And I'm in my pickup truck, minding my own business, going in to Knoxville, Tennessee on I-40. Bunch of cars come by, kind of sporty, and they line up across the road in front of me and slow down. And now, Bill, you might have heard this story on VinWiki, or
I did, but
Yeah.
it's a really good
It's a
one.
good one. It's a good one.
3 sporty cars, 2 Mustangs, and a Pontiac G8, which is a V8 450 horse hot rod straight from Pontiac that not many people know about. Cool cars. And they're slowing down, way down to like 20 miles an hour. I don't know, 10 miles an hour. And I'm thinking about the semi behind me running over me. And I'm flashing my lights going, come on, what are you? And I'm going, wait a minute. These guys are setting up a race. I've seen this before in Atlanta. And they slow down. And meanwhile, guess what? I don't have my dash cam up.
Oh, no.
Because I would, if I had this video, because all of a sudden it's Sunday morning leaving Cars and Coffee.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
slow down. The guys are yelling at each other out the windows. 1, 3, 2, 1, go. And they gas it. Brrr, and the G8 spins his tires, gets sideways, and T-bones the Mustang right in front of me. And it was mayhem. I almost hit him myself, all of them. And the Mustang gets hit, and he does not follow the first rule of when you're in trouble in your race car, or, anytime you're in trouble, get out of the gas. If you don't know where you're going, I'm talking about real trouble. If you don't know where you're going, if you know you're crashing, why would you want to crash faster? It's a myth that you can power out of trouble. That's a myth. If you're in real trouble, you're in doubt, we used to say in Skip Barber, you don't know where you're going next, back out of the power. It's only going to make it worse.
Right.
The power's like the trigger of a gun. You only want to use that when you know exactly where you're pointed.
Right.
So, anyway, this Mustang guy had not had skid pad training like you just did. And he's on the power, but he's sideways because he's just been T-boned by his buddy in the G8. And he is full power, gets sideways and powers into the center divider. Whoa, boom, he hits. You want to crash hard? Go in under power in a late model Mustang. Those things are 410 horsepower if it's not a 350R or whatever. Anyway, if I'd only had my dash cam up, we'd all be rich.
Oh,
It would have been 1 million views in a heartbeat.
that would have been
Right in
awesome.
front of me. It was right there in full Technicolor widescreen. Guess what? My phone was right next to me. I mean, I could have just picked up my phone. I was too busy staring like, oh my God, they're going to race. I've never done a video before. I'm just going to sit here and watch. I'm so mad at myself.
Oh gosh.
So,
Randy, how did you manage COVID this year with your race season?
Well, it was, for a long time, it was really awful. Because I
Aw.
like you
It was
guys,
sad, Randy.
for the most part, in April, May, June, racetracks were closed.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't go run. Races involve people gathering,
Mm-hmm.
and it was awful. But I don't know if you call it managing, but I had so much more time that I was able to get coordinated with my good friend John Osborne Jr. and get rolling on the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been flirting with it for a year or so or two, and been wanting to do it because I think it's right up my alley. I love making videos. I love cars, and I know a lot about cars and track driving. Track driving is my real niche, and handling, and I like sharing that. And I love the people that I meet, and so that was the good thing. Was it forced me into a situation where I could hook up with John and we could start actually doing this, making our little videos. And the channel's still small. I mean, but he came with me to Pikes Peak. And in Pikes Peak, I had a dramatic crash and then a dramatic comeback from a 24-hour rebuild by my race team. And we got 1 million views.
Yep.
It skyrocketed. And it got me my blue check mark, which is a big deal on social media. And it got us, I don't know, it really catalyzed the growth of our subscribers. So for all you viewers out there, go over to Randy Pobst YouTube channel and subscribe, join us.
Yeah.
It's
We're
awesome.
garage heroes in training too. I'm always learning, and
You never stop. You
well,
really never
I get a lot
stop.
too. And if I could swing back to the building an engine story,
Okay.
I look forward to when Bill. I bet you've done it. Have you built an engine, Bill?
The mechanics are the other two people on this podcast with me.
Really?
I am
Well, I
excellent
look
at
forward
going
to
and buying
Bit-
parts.
Bill
Well,
kind of said it so eloquently one day. He says, Vic, I'm willing to do it. You want to do it. That's the difference.
You like it.
I do.
I want to drive.
Well, okay, Vicky and Jennifer, when you build an engine, you got to close all the doors, turn off your phone, be all alone with that engine, or maybe an instructor or somebody like me to help guide you. But it's like a Zen experience, and everything's got to be perfectly clean and done in the right order and done correctly, and you can't miss anything. And then you double check each step as you go. And I find it a very, very satisfying experience of sort of peacefully executing a process to a goal of taking parts and making a piece.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'd enjoy it.
I think so. I really do. I have not leveled up to that point, but I'm very excited to the point when we actually get there.
You're getting there.
I am.
We have a sensei called Mr. Honda, and he's going to come over as soon as this COVID thing goes away and teach us how to tear apart and put one back together. So we just need this COVID thing to go away.
Honda?
It might be an adopted name, I think.
Hondas are a great engine to work on because they make sense. They're really well done.
He refers to them as Legos. So
Yeah, he refers to him like a Lego.
Oh, that's funny.
That's
I
funny.
have great respect for Honda engines. I'm a fan. I never got the tattoo like some of my buddies have, but I have a lot of respect for it. Honda they were one of the first companies they moved the whole motorcycle world forward an entire generation in the 60s. Hondas were a step ahead of everybody, and closely followed by Kawasaki and Suzuki. And then when they moved to cars, it was kind of the same thing. In the 70s, Honda engines were an extension, a development, a growth out of their motorcycle business. And so they had the same sort of precision and this kind of artful engineering. And here I am, 14, 15 years old, and I'm looking at American V8s and Harley Davidsons, and I'm going, this is Cro-Magnon, prehistoric. It's just cast iron, old, compared to a Honda that was like jewelry. And the Hondas were cheaper. And they're still so well done. Like the whole K series,
right,
modern Honda engines. I'm going to race. That's my next. Well, okay. Very soon I'm going to race one with a friend at Sonoma. Are you guys coming down for Sonoma, Lucky Dog?
Nope, not yet. We're
still setting up our 2021. Well, we about got our 2021 schedule.
Yeah, everything's got question marks next to it. That's the problem.
Everything's fluid right now. How does your 2021 look?
I don't ever look much beyond about 2 weeks. So it looks pretty much the same.
That is not a surprise, sir.
One of the great things about long races is I can go there and I know a lot of people and somebody lets me drive their car.
Yep.
Because the races are so long.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. I've gotten lazy. I said I could still do some pro racing, like the Rolex 24 at Daytona is next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And my buddy Bill says I should be down there walking the paddock. And maybe I should, but there's just something that's keeping me from doing it. Maybe it's the feeling like a beggar. With the classic "will race for food," you're holding up that sign. But it's part of the sport. You got to do it. And if you're smart, you call around ahead of time. And I was never very good at that either. I was so lucky to, a couple times my career was basically over and I got a phone call out of the clear blue sky. One of those times was Mitch Wright in 2002. I had been a Porsche factory driver the year before, and I got basically, between you and me, fired. It just didn't work out. I'm going to say it's because at the time, and to a certain extent still today, Porsche race cars handle like go-karts. They're stiff and they jump around and they oversteer, and they're really, in 2001, they were awful. I'm sorry, they were awful. But the kids who came out of karting could drive these things and make me look like a fool.
What they're used to, right?
Yeah. Well, you know what? When you grow up, a lot of the Porsche factory drivers, a lot of European drivers and more Americans start out as children racing karts. And karts have a solid rear axle and they have no suspension. And that solid rear axle, when you turn, that means there's no differential. The rear wheels want to go the same speed. And the car does not want to turn when you have a locked rear end, a welded diff, as we call it, or karts. So they have a locked rear end, a spool. They don't want to turn. The way you get them to turn is you snap them into the corner. You got to make them turn. You got to get that rear wheel up in the air so the car will go around the corner. Well, they drive this way for 8 or 10 years. Now they're 18 or 20 years old, and they get hired by Porsche. And so what do you think they want their car to handle like? What they've been driving for 8 or 10 years.
Right.
Me, I grew up in a VW Rabbit. I mean, I don't want my car to leap all over the road. When I drove for Porsche, I was about 41 or 42 years old. I had a much broader view of the world than these 19-year-old super talented young drivers. And I knew what good handling was. And frankly, between you and me, they didn't. They knew what they knew.
Right.
And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Anyway, so 2002, I actually did have a ride in American Le Mans with another Porsche team, Peterson. And that was good. But I didn't know where my career was headed. And I got a call from Mitch Wright, and he hooked me up with Tim Weens and 3R Racing in World Challenge. in a Porsche. And World Challenge became my new world for the next 12 years. It was great. It was so lucky. I just so lucky. These things just fell into place at the right time. I ended up with Audi and with Mazda and then with Volvo. And I felt very fortunate. Looking back, it was a miracle.
So I have a question for you, Randy. Do you
Yes,
have
ma'am.
a racing philosophy? The listeners want to know.
What little knowledge can you give our, listeners coming up through the ranks?
Yeah, well, you just heard me rant about carts.
Yep.
Mhm.
Watch out for drivers that you're with who grew up in carts, because they're going to like snap oversteer, and snap oversteer entering a corner is not the fastest way around a corner. Why? Because the friction circle is round. Snap oversteer takes a car from going straight to turning in an instant. But in reality, and to go as fast as you can, you have to blend the straightaway into the corner. And so there's some time while you're still slowing down, while you're still braking, before you're fully cornering. And if a car snap oversteers, that happens too fast. And the car is not going to be as fast as it was if you're able to blend those things. That is the secret to speed. The final bottom line is using 100% of your tire grip all the time, right?
Right.
And the way to do that is to blend your braking into your cornering. So now you're cornering full blast. Then you want to exit the corner, right? You got to go to power. You slam that gas down, right? No, you're still cornering. Now you've got to roll in a little power as you're taking out a little bit of the cornering. So all this is a smooth, artful blending of the tire's capabilities from straight ahead full braking. You blend that less braking, more cornering. Now you're full cornering. Then you begin accelerating, a little acceleration, a little more, a little less cornering, a little more acceleration, a little less cornering, until you're straight ahead, full blast accelerating. That's how you go fast. And the person who does the best job of blending his tire grip from braking to cornering to acceleration is going to win the race. If, number one, my basic philosophy of racing really is not that friction circle. It's in order to finish first, you must first finish. Number one, survive. I won a lot of races by being a guy that was still there when the checkered flag came out.
Right.
Yep.
Especially 14-hour endurance races.
Yeah, we tend to do better when our car finishes than when it doesn't.
But a lot of that is in your mechanic or in your build, or in these two ladies over here that are building the car.
That's right,
Doing
ladies.
a good job of recognizing what the car is going to need to survive this race, and doing the triage from the last race, and in bolting everything together in a way that it will stay together. I have great admiration for anyone who can keep a car running for 14 hours on a racetrack.
Right. So Randy, with your philosophy of the blending of the inputs and the blending of the outputs, and trying to make sure that you're on the friction circle, kind of a two-parter. Is it more difficult or less difficult with a high horsepower car versus a low horsepower car to do that? And does one teach you a bad habit, I guess, is because I find a low horsepower car I can get away with more, and I've never driven a high horsepower car, so I have no idea what I'm going to get into there. So
I might contradict you a little bit, except you've never driven a high horsepower car. So maybe not, because in my early career, I had never driven a high horsepower car. And when I autocrossed Datsun 510, a VW Rabbit, an Opel 1900 sedan. And I started racing in a VW Golf, and then a Toyota Corolla, and
Mhm.
then an MR2 supercharged, which was 140 horse, which at the time actually was pretty good in 1988.
Yeah.
And then later, and then I ran Hondas with TC Klein Racing, and it was not until the mid 90s. I'd been racing for 10 years, won championships, a lot of races, that I drove a genuinely powerful car on a racetrack for the first time. It was in Bridgestone Supercars. It was a BMW M5. It was like a big touring car that had about 500 horsepower, a fully built 3.6 liter BMW M5 inline six engine.
Okay.
And this thing taught me an interesting lesson. First race I ran was at Lime Rock. And Lime Rock has always been a very difficult track. When I raced there in the Hondas, it was a challenge. And those little Hondas didn't have much power. And you'd have to go like the downhill. They didn't have much power, but they didn't have much grip. And trying to go through the downhill flat out was frightening.
Yep.
And it was difficult. And this car had 105 horsepower, like a CRX,
Right.
with an 88-inch wheelbase. And coming down that hill, whoa, you know. And so I think out in your world of your listeners and in the TV land, people think that a powerful car is harder to drive because it's so powerful, can get away from you. That's not what I found. When I drove that BMW, coming down the hill at Lime Rock, I had enough power. It had a lot of power. I had the power to transfer weight. And weight management is your number one job as a driver, is weight management. Because when you transfer weight back, anywhere you transfer weight, that end is going to get more traction, right?
Mhm.
When you slow down, you transfer weight forward and the front steers better. When you accelerate, you transfer weight back and the rear has more grip. Well, that's what I found. Coming down that hill at Lime Rock was a lot easier because now I actually had the apex late. I could get on the power, it would transfer weight back and it would plant the car. And it made it easier to come out of that corner.
I think what I was saying, maybe I said it poorly. I probably did. The lower horsepower cars, like we're talking 200-ish, Toyota 86, even some E36 BMWs. You can almost treat the gas pedal as a digital on off. You don't really have to massage it in. You can kind of just resume gas, boom, down to the bottom, and there's not a lot of torque there. So I was thinking that would cause me more of a problem, like coming out of the keyhole at Mid Ohio. I've been passed by cars that have a lot more horsepower than I did, and I can basically just get back to gas and I just assume it and it goes. But I've seen some of them where they actually have so much torque that they can get loose. I'm thinking like a 350R Mustang or some track prepped Corvettes that we race with, and I've seen it looks like they have a little bit more things to be concerned with than I do in my lower horsepower, lower torque type vehicles.
Well, you've got to deal with traction.
Yeah.
And you might get wheel spin, right? And these lower power cars, to me, a lower power car is a Miata or a Honda CRX that has 100 horsepower, but I think I'm behind the times because now a low power car is 200 horsepower.
Yeah, it seems like it.
No, you're right. You're right. And even the Miata is 188 horsepower now, I think.
Right. Yeah.
And when you get really good and you're really going, when you are driving a Miata, Bill, and you find that you cannot put the power down right away, that's when you know you're getting really fast.
And you're getting onto the edges. Yeah. Okay, I can see that.
Because even I had an epiphany years ago in a Miata going through turn 1 at Road Atlanta, which is an 80-mile-an-hour corner in the Miata I was in.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the 80s. And I found that when I was right on the limit going through that corner in 4th gear in a Miata, and I could not use full throttle because it made the car run wide, because it transferred weight in tiny increments.
Sure.
But when you're on the limit, small changes make a big difference. And even in a low power car. Now, in a high power car, oh yeah, small changes make a big difference.
Yeah.
Because they transfer more weight, and the more weight you transfer, the more effect it has on your handling.
Mhm.
And then it introduces the new to a driver like you or me in the high powered car, the new factor of wheel spin. Do I have enough power to spin the tires? Now, a car like a NASCAR car, they have very powerful engines on relatively, and heavy cars on small tires. So NASCAR cars actually spin the tires very easily, even at really high speeds. And that's part of their challenge in both setup and in driving, is getting that power to the ground when there's so little traction. That's one thing I admire about them.
Yeah. Well, we're still in training, so I got some room to improve. I know what to look for now. That'll be fun for next season.
But be careful with power.
Yeah.
Power corrupts. Power's like money. You get a little bit, you want more. You want more. Because right here in your sternum, it feels really good. It's hard to go back. If you ever have a turbo car,
Yep, we do.
never turn up the boost. And some people will tell you because you'll blow it up, which you will eventually. But if you turn up the boost, you can't turn it down again. You can never go back. It ruins you.
We understand. We had a turbo car that had an adjustment knob, and we showed our son and his friend, who were 17 at the time, where that was. And
you don't like them very much, do you?
Well, no, we didn't like having to fix it several times, but
It's so hard to resist. Never put the boost knob within the reach of the driver.
Nope.
Basic rule.
Or a 17-year-old.
Ever.
Or especially a 17-year-old.
Who's going to dominate? But
I have a friend who got in trouble recently. 19-year-old driver driving a 450 horsepower car, which, these days, any late model sporty car is 450 horsepower.
Seems like it, yeah.
Yeah. And I said, you know what? I got in trouble too, but not as much. But I thought for a minute, but the cars I was driving when I was 19, they were 75 horsepower, not 450 like yours.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just got contacted just on social media. I was talking with somebody who's interested in telling a story of a crash. And we're even talking about coaching, because the picture was a Porsche Cayman upside down. Young driver, and I thought, there's another 400 horsepower car. They're just everywhere, and something went wrong. Even with the stability control on. That's an accomplishment.
So, Randy, throughout your career, we wanted to know if you could maybe share just one or two things, maybe some things that drivers should do, some things they shouldn't do, and if maybe you had a really bad story. So it's kind of like the good, bad, and the ugly. Do you have an ugly story?
Things just went completely
I have a lot
off
of
the
ugly
rails.
stories.
It's a broad
I have a
career.
lot of ugly stories. Well, another fundamental, I keep saying fundamental, which I'm sure that all of you already know, is a fundamental about driving is look where you want to go. We have to be careful how we say this, because I don't want to train in the negative, but I'm not smart enough to say it another way. Look where you want to be and be brave. Do not look at what you're afraid you'll hit. Because everyone has natural hand-eye coordination, we very much tend to go where we're looking. And our survival instincts for driving, they're all wrong. Humans did not evolve, or we weren't created with cars, depending on what your, cosmic construct is. Cars only showed up here very recently. And in the past, throughout human history, it's been really good when something gets your attention and you're afraid of it, to look at it improves your chances of defending yourself. Well, now when you're driving, looking at what you're afraid of, hitting is a bad thing, because you go where you look. Due to your natural eye-hand coordination, your hands and your feet tend to respond to the information they're getting from your eyes. The eyes rule. The eyes are showing you where to go, basically. So like my Mustang example earlier in this Mustang guy was sideways on the power. He had just been hit. He was probably scared to death if he has half a brain. So he was scared to death. What's he looking at? He's looking at that wall. He's pointed at that wall and he's on the power. Why is he on the power? Because the eyes are looking straight ahead and the power's going, oh, well, let's go. And he powered right into what he was afraid of, that wall. And it was a good example of how we need to be brave when we drive, and we need to think ahead, plan ahead, look ahead. And that means not looking forward. When you're cornering, your head should be turned. Your head should turn and look into the corner, down to the inside edge. Look at the inside edge. Get your eyes down there. Someday I'm going to invent a laser that's strong enough that we can see it while we're driving. So I can put this laser pointer on the road where my students' eyes should be. Or we can even probably develop a computer program. I mean, cars can drive themselves. You can probably develop a program pretty easily that can see the corner and read the G's and lay a laser beam light on the inside edge of the road ahead, where you need to be looking and thinking as you enter a corner. You actually have to think ahead further than you look. Mm-hmm. And everybody will drive better. Everybody will crash less. Life will be better. Look into the corner. Now, this is a difficult thing to train because a lot of people think they're looking ahead and they're not. In fact, there's this great photograph from a video I did. I did a video with a Motor Trend host by the name of Jessie Lang a long time ago, like 10 years ago. She's driving and I'm coaching her. She's driving, right? And in the picture, there's a camera on dash looking back at us. And my head is turned. You're looking at my left ear. and I'm going, look into the corner. I remember this moment so well. And she goes, yes, I'm looking into the corner. And we're getting a full facial. She is staring straight ahead.
Oh, no.
She does not yet understand that looking ahead means turning your head and looking out the side window in a tight corner,
sure,
looking past the B pillar or the A pillar. These things should be in your view when you're entering a corner if you're looking ahead. There's a saying that a lot of instructors use called eyes up. I don't like that saying. I say eyes in, turn your head, because eyes up is like it's still looking straight ahead.
Yeah.
No, look into the corner. Sometimes I pissed off a few students, I think including my friend Pam, whom I recently coached in my Camaro, because I would drive and I'd say, okay, look into the corner. And I would turn and look at her and she was looking too much straight ahead. She was not getting her eyes into the corner, looking at the inside edge of the corner a couple seconds ahead of the car. And so I reached over and I took the bottom of her helmet, the full coverage helmet, and I pulled it over. I pulled it into the corner and it was like I had the steering wheel. By gently pulling her helmet in the direction of the inside of the corner, the car turned, the steering wheel turned.
Right.
And why is that? I already mentioned eye-hand coordination. Where the eyes go, the hands and even the feet will follow. If you're looking into a corner, if your head is turned into a corner, your foot will not get on the gas because it's getting the proper information. Oh, we're still turning. It's too soon. You don't power through a corner. You power out of a corner.
Mm-hmm.
Power is for accelerating. Power is not for cornering. And power is for accelerating. And now in Miatas, it's not for accelerating as much as it is in a World Challenge Firebird, but it's a basic rule in your brain. Think of horsepower for leaving a corner, not for entering a corner. That is something that your go-kart people will do to you. Go-kart guys kick it sideways and get to the power immediately. They have to, because if they don't, the car will spin. But that works in go-karts because they have a solid axle. If you don't get the solid axle turned and the inside wheel unloaded, they'll push like a son of a gun. They'll just understeer. They will not turn. And all of this ties together with looking ahead, hand-eye coordination, and driving a car better. Use the brake for turning on the way in and the gas for accelerating on the way out. Did you get that? Are you writing this down?
Yep, I'm writing it all down.
Absolutely.
See, I have a concern with your science project that you're working on, Randy. You may work yourself out of a job because if you have this laser pointed where you're supposed to go, you're probably going to lose to one of the cats that are nearby. Because they'll just follow that laser like nobody's business. So you get it.
I know, it's hilarious.
So, what do you think you've learned leading a team versus driving for a team?
Leading a team.
Have you led a team?
Like you're flying moose.
Yeah.
I have learned one, and I did it early on. I was the team. Not really. I wasn't. I had a friend named Randy who came racing with me on my first year. He was the greatest. Couldn't have done it without him. And then my ex, Linda, whose birthday was that today, the 24th? Oh, yesterday, the 24th. Linda was I made her my driving partner. We were the husband and wife racing team.
Made her driving partner.
We met autocrossing. She's and still is. She's doing driving events and things. And so I had partners and help, but leading a team is a lot more work and a lot more responsibility, isn't it? You have far more to do than just driving the car, which is what I have done most of my career. I've just been a driver, which is a great luxury. But having built my own cars and towed to the races and called sponsors and done the mechanic work, and done all of that, loaded the trailer after the race when we were done, after I just raced for 6 hours. Having done all that early in my career, I have a great appreciation for my teams and for the work they're doing. And coming back to that now here later in my driving life, I enjoy the control, being able to make some of these decisions and do things the way I want it. And I also really appreciate it because most of the time, Vicki, I'm just overwhelmed. It's like, oh, I've got to do this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And that just hit me like a freight train, that we're racing this 14-hour champ car race at Road Atlanta in a week and a half. I don't have tires. We've got a fuel pickup issue I still need to fix. I got to pick up the brakes that we had redone to try to reduce the pedal caliper flex to make the pedal work better. I got to get Dustin, my buddy in Florida. He's going to come up and crew for us. I haven't even sent him an email to see if he can make it. You know, it goes on and on like that, doesn't it?
It can burn you out. It really can.
Yeah. Kind of frequently friends call me and ask me how I'm doing. And if I'm honest, I say I'm overwhelmed because I got my 5 race car projects.
Yeah.
I got my YouTube channel and I got a race in a week and a half that I'm not ready for. And yeah, it goes on.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that. So Randy, having you on was one of the goals for our podcast. You know, we had a few things that we wanted to have on, and then we finally got
Bill, aim high.
We did. We got there. and then our microphone went out, and it really stunk. But we had this tremendous discussion in Portland about your thoughts of the importance of tires to successful racing, and how really it was almost like the chief thing you have to do is manage your tires, and nobody got to hear it except for Vicky and I. So,
hey, you're going to blow them away.
I
Yeah.
know. So for those who weren't there, which is most of the rest of the population of the world, we only missed about 8 billion people. The tires to you really, they are the only part that touches the ground. So they're pretty important, but I don't think people realize just how important they are.
Exactly, Bill. The most important part on any race car is the tires. And oftentimes the largest part of your bill is the tires. This is true at all levels of racing. Although that's one thing I like about endurance racing, the 200 treadwear tires used to last a long time, and that's a wonderful thing. But the tires are getting more aggressive, and like the Bridgestone RE71 doesn't last as long as the other 200 treadwear tires.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the new Yokohama A052 doesn't last as long as the Bridgestone. And so that's changing, and I'm watching to see what happens.
You can put 200 treadwear on any tire.
Yeah. The manufacturers decide what treadwear rating to put on there. You're right, Bill.
Yeah.
And so that world is changing. I am a fan of the way it was pre-Bridgestone RE71.
Right.
When the tires were they really were 200 treadwear. They would last 14 hours.
Yep.
24 hours. And they work in the rain and the dry. You don't have to change tires. You just keep rolling. I love that.
We were joking about having a spec series where you had to use the tires from Walmart.
Yeah.
The 400 treadwear wears like iron. We thought that would be fantastic.
I'm all for it because it's harder. It puts a higher, what's the word, Jennifer? Puts a higher value
skill,
on the driving.
yeah.
No, higher
degree of skill.
Importance.
Yeah.
Higher degree of skill is required.
Mm-hmm.
What's the word for that, Jennifer?
I don't know.
Smart.
Huh?
What's the word that I'm looking
I
for?
look smart.
See, we thought it would be an ingenious way of battling the speed creep, because how much fun is it to have 700 horsepower under your right foot with 400 treadwear Walmart tires under all four wheel wells?
If you have lousy tires, you don't have as much of an advantage from those horsepowers.
Yeah, you're eventually going to have to slow down at some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when we were discussing about the tires, we were also discussing about how your tires are supposed to perform when you're driving. What are you supposed to be feeling in your tires when you're driving that vehicle as you're shifting weight?
Well, we talked about winning races by doing the best job of using your tires' best grip.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the short story. The story gets longer when you get into more detail. Like every tire makes the best grip when it's sliding a little bit, but each tire wants a different amount of sliding. And through your own experience and your own seat of the pants feel, every driver has to learn what their tire will tolerate, because the harder you run them, the hotter they get. Sliding is friction, and tires can only take so much heat. And so as a driver, you have to plan and, okay, I need another word, the one for when, ration. You have to ration the tire grip that you have and meter it out over the race, because you don't win the race on the first lap when your tires are perfect. You win the race on which lap?
Last lap.
The last lap.
The last lap, when that checkered flag comes out. And so you, as a driver, to win a race, have got to make sure that you've still got enough grip to win the race when the race is over. And this is what winning drivers, one of the many things they're good at. is making their tires last. You have to be wise and controlled about it. And different series, different tires, different classes, that there are different levels of importance on that. In a short race, it's not as important because your tires probably will make it, but maybe not. It depends on the compounds and all. And then in longer races, it's a different factor. But interestingly, on these 200 treadwear tires, they actually tolerate a lot, or they used to. They're getting softer, and they're becoming more like real race tires that aren't as tolerant of being driven really hard. The 200 treadwears, I've had some real fun because I've realized I actually love it when I'm driving, racing a car, usually more like Lemons, and I realize I can actually drift this thing and still turn good lap times at the same time and not wear out my tires. So I was in a race in Autobahn outside Chicago in a Ford Crown Victoria police car. And in fact, we had a stripper pole mounted on the roof. And
that's standard equipment.
And we had 3 real live professional dancers on our pit crew. And when we pitted, they would jump on the roof of the car and dance. And I don't know, somehow this was legal. And anyway, this car was fun because, well, police cars are fun. If you haven't driven one, you need to drive one, especially like a Crown Victoria, because it's got cop tires, cop engine, cop suspension, and it's big and they're kind of friendly, and you can just, it was a drifter. And I realized that this thing, it didn't hurt my lap times or the tires. So at Audubon, we were on, I can't remember the names of the courses. We were on the
south and north.
Okay, I think it's the north. It's on the right when you drive in, that course, the shorter one.
Yeah, the north one then. Yeah, south is the bigger one.
And there's a long front straightaway, and then there's a fast kink that goes into a fast kink left that goes into a tight hairpin right. And I began to realize that I could drift all the way through the fast kink left. And if I did it right, I would Scandinavian fling it back right into the hairpin and on around. And I started attracting a crowd on purpose.
Spectators.
I saw them over there, and I'm like, oh yeah, watch this one. Going for that perfect drift that blends seamlessly into the going the other way. And it was so much fun. And the 200 treadwear tires allowed me to do that because they didn't wear out. They didn't get overheated, and I was still turning, well, I mean, for the car, good lap times. And that's one of the things I like about a race like Lemons. It's a party, and I'm a fun-loving guy. But I do have this other side that has helped me in pro racing, where I want to win, and I get very, very, very serious. And in fact, Vicki, you talked about ADD. I've long felt that I had ADD, but because I'm easily distracted, right? And I read an article about it, and they listed a lot of symptoms that you'd never guess were ADD. And they were things like somebody who has ADD has the ability to focus really, really hard on something that interests them. The whole world goes away. Like an ADD person doing something they really like won't even hear you if you walk up and say hi. I do that. And it's one of the reasons Linda is my former wife. Some of you husbands might relate to this. You don't hear your wife calling you or talking to you when she's standing right next to you when you're driving your sim game.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Randy.
And I'm one of those guys. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's me. I do that.
I've actually had to tell Bill that. And I'm like, listen, I'm not cranky. I'm just hyper focused right now, and you're in my space with my hyper focus.
Exactly.
So let me just plow through this. It's nothing personal, but you're interrupting the flow.
Yes. Yes. And boy, I get in this zone when I'm racing, and especially professionally when there's a lot on the line.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had people ask me what I do to prepare for it, and I really don't do anything. It just happens.
Mm-hmm.
And when the race comes closer, my focus starts narrowing, and then when it's time to get in the car and go, and I don't even want to let anything in, like you just said. It's like, no, partially because this feels good.
Right.
It's like scratching an inch. Oh. You know what? For Christmas, I got poison ivy on my face.
Oh no!
Wow.
If you're watching my posts, I had a beard for a while.
Yep.
Because I couldn't shave. You can't shave poison ivy.
No.
Bad idea. And we were masking, right? And I didn't really realize it, but
oh no!
I got poison ivy on the mask. So behind my ear here, and I don't know about you guys, but poison ivy gets me the most on skin that is the most like virgin, right?
Yep.
Like you never get poison ivy on the palms of your hand, right? I never did.
No.
But inside my arm where it's a bit more tender, well, right here behind the ear, that skin has never seen the sun. It's never, it was horrible. But when I would put my mask on and off, it would like itch it or, scratch the itch a little bit.
Irritate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it felt so good. I'm like, yeah, I had to, you know how that is when you have a really bad itch and you're not supposed to scratch it.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Driving in a race is a little bit like that. It feels so good. I just, and that's related to ADD. And it's part of what has made me successful in my race career is that focus.
Channeling it.
Focus. I don't see the good looking girl leaning on the fence. You ever heard that kind of story? Somebody's like, oh, did you see that beautiful woman over there in turn 3? I'm going, no. Turn 3 has an apex right there, and I want to hit it perfectly. Don't mess with me in the race car.
No. Trust me, we just wave you by.
How would you think is a good progression for someone looking to become a good amateur race driver as a side hobby to a career? For example,
what you did.
What you did, Randy. Just tell us what you did.
Yeah, well,
I
didn't
guess
have very much money. I started in autocross. I didn't have very much money, and I'm not really very good at making money. I'm not one of those people who can work hard and make money like my brother and my sister. They're both really good at that. I had to figure out how to do it without much money. And one way was I started autocrossing. It was inexpensive. And autocross led me to my first sponsors because I wanted to see how good I was. I wanted better competition. So even at the very beginning, I wanted to run the little state championship in Florida and then divisional championships. I joined SCCA because I wanted to run the national championships. I joined SCCA, Sports Car Club of America, in 1980. So last year was my 40th year. But I wanted to test myself, and I still did well. And by doing well at higher levels, even in a sport like autocross, which has grown into really a very competitive, genuine sport. It was much more casual back then when I was a kid. And, but there was nothing casual about the driving. We wanted to win. But I got my first sponsor connections. And who you know is really important. And sponsors are important. Because unless, actually the short story is go become a doctor, a surgeon preferably, and then you'll have enough money, you can go race whatever you want, whenever you want. But if you want somebody to hire you, or you even worse, you run your own team, you need money. Racing requires money, and a lot of it. even in the so-called budget series, it's still thousands of dollars a weekend to do this at the very least. And pro races are often $100,000 a weekend. $1 million, that's pretty cheap for a pro car like an IMSA GT3 car.
Right.
You're going to spend well over $1 million, which is 100,000 plus a weekend. And so you've got to be good at, you got to make connections and work your network. People, this is just business. And you've got to be able to perform when you get in a seat and not do any damage, right? And fit in with a team. And I've seen talented drivers who could not get along with the people that they raced with. A couple of names come to my mind immediately, names you don't know because they didn't make it, because they couldn't get along, because they were some of the best drivers I've ever met. But they just couldn't get along with a team. You're a team when you go racing.
Right.
So you've got to get your little sponsorships together. What I did was I got a job putting on autocrosses and saved up all my money for 2 years. And I had a little bit of money, and I found the really only car I could afford, but the cheapest car I could afford to race in the cheapest series I could afford to race. And I just hung on. I ran. Back then, you could actually win a little bit of prize money. I don't think you can win much prize money anymore. For a long time, you haven't been able to. Back then, we could in Volkswagen Cup. If I finished in the top 5 or so, I could win enough money to get to the next race if I didn't wreck my car. And so it became really important to be able to race without wrecking. Because if I had ever wrecked that car, my career was over. I could not afford to wreck it. But I had to finish well enough to earn enough money to be able to go to the next race, because I didn't have enough money to do that. And so there was a combination of finding money and not messing up and being good enough to still get the job done. You really need to combine a lot of things. Anybody who can make a career out of driving, having people hire them to drive, is a very special individual. And that the number of people that have done that is very, very small. And the number of people that want to do that is very, very large. So you have to create this combination of being tough enough to defend yourself in the race and win the race, nice enough to get along with your team and your sponsors and other drivers who you may need at some point to help you get a ride. I got a couple of rides from other drivers who helped me as a co-driver, or just they knew an opportunity and they said, hey, ask Randy. And then in today's world, the greatest talent it would be the business side, being able to get sponsors, because it's more expensive than ever. And because if you can bring money, you can drive any car you want, almost no matter how bad you are. You still want to win, but you've got to be able to find the money. And if you can find the money, you can bring it to a team and drive anything you want.
It's kind of sad, but true, I guess.
I hope that answered your question, Jennifer.
Yes.
I think
I'm
so.
very tangential.
Okay.
I go off. It was a big question.
Do you know
I
what?
love that about you, though.
I know.
think
Do you
that's
know what?
awesome.
It's
Oh,
just,
well,
I
thank
think Randy just combines like the professionalism that he is and how lucky he is with just being so sweet at the same time.
And you're a great storyteller. I love
You are.
you are. You're just a great
Not in the race
storyteller.
car.
Not in a race car, he's not.
Yeah, that was something I learned was you got to protect your turf. But you can't, it's a balancing act. It's a balancing act. But in a race, you got to be tough. And you can't let other people push you around. But my favorite story of all, I made a VinWiki about it, but I was stupid. I put the video from the actual race in it, and they figured out who it was. There was a guy that crashed me so bad that that he wanted to intimidate me, and he did. He convinced me that he's crazy and that he might kill me. And when somebody goes that far, it's different. It's not sport anymore.
Right.
The analogy I made was to terrorism, which is why I took it down. You can call a guy crazy or dangerous, maybe, but if you call a guy a terrorist, now you might get a knock on the door and a lawyer.
Yeah.
It doesn't go over.
But my favorite column, I've been writing a column for the SCCA magazine, Sports Car. That is for almost 17 years. I can't believe that. And the reason I started writing that column was this guy that crashed me so bad when I felt it was not justified. I had not hit him. I annoyed him in a race by his words. You raced me too hard at the beginning of a long endurance race. And I said, well, you could have killed me. In the downhill S's at Road Atlanta at 100 miles an hour, he's broken down. And when I drove by, boom. Anyway.
That's not a good place.
It struck me deep. It's like, it's like that guy was willing to wreck his car that he was driving for another team. It wasn't his car. And because of me making him angry at the race before. And I hadn't hit him. I did not touch his car. And I thought,
Oh no.
Crazy. And one of my missions in starting to write that column was trying to reduce crashing, both by training and by preaching that it's wrong. I've done a lot of preaching in that column. It's been a bully pulpit.
Right.
But, it's a sport, and it's a sport where you race hard, but within a framework of rules. And that is what sport is.
It's a sport, not a death wish.
If you're golfing and the guy is starting to beat you, he's put the birdie the last couple of holes, you don't whack him in the head with your club, which is basically what happened. Yeah. And so I'm very thankful to that guy, because he changed my life, and that he motivated me to write this column, because I don't like deadlines. For 17 years, I've had to write a column every 30 days.
That's an ADD thing.
Sorry?
That's an ADD thing.
I was worried what my second column was going to be about.
You've written a few.
I knew I wanted to write that one about. The title is Intimidator or Terrorist.
Ooh.
Because that's the line you cross. It's
right.
Sport. Intimidating is a normal part. It's a healthy part of sport. You get on that guy. You get in his mirrors. It's fun. You can do it in tennis. Yep. They do it in golf. That's part of sport. Terrorism is when you threaten someone with harm to control them. And we had that happen as a country, and it happens in the races, and it happened to me, and it's wrong. And that's what I was preaching about. And that's what got me that column. It's been fun. And now I'm going to do a book.
Oh, good.
Columns into a book.
Sweet. I love that.
Yep.
And I think I have a title. I'm going to use, the column is called Pope's Position. It's supposed to sound a little bit like pole position, pole position, and a double entendre that it's my opinions, which is all it is. But it's Pope's Position, Tips and Tales from the Vortex of Danger. Buy it in bookstores soon.
I love that.
We will bring our copies that we buy to the racetrack and pester you to sign them.
Yeah, and you can pester your competitors with them. You can pull out a column and go, look, hey, Randy said what you just did was wrong.
Right. Yep.
Oh,
so Randy, there was one question that we didn't get to ask when we were in Portland last time you were on, and you're in a unique position because you've driven almost every car that's out, right? And one of the things Yeah, and one of the things I've noticed is as the newer cars get faster and faster, they're actually, in some instances, maybe all, I don't know, less fun to drive on a public street. You know, if a car goes 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds, how much fun can you have accelerating, or or if it's got a 17G turn capability, how safe is it to go around a turn anywhere near the limit? So is there a car that you think of that has the right balance of power and handling versus public roads to still be enjoyable, yet something you can get the fizz from out on the road, as opposed to on the track? Totally different set of conditions, probably doesn't apply, but
Bill, that's so easy.
okay.
What is the universal motorsport answer?
I believe that would be a Miata.
Miata. That's true. The Miata makes every trip to the grocery store feel like the Formula One Grand Prix.
Yep.
I owned one. I raced one. And
You
I
have
like to race what I own, but it really does. But, they don't have 500 horsepower.
Nope.
And they don't need it. There's a lot of joy in flooring a car.
Sure.
And I think that's part of where you're going with that, or that's what it means to me. One downside of having a powerful car is that they're so powerful now that you don't get the joy of putting your foot to the floor and holding it there while running it through the gears.
Nope.
Most Porsches will go 90 in second gear or 100. And so you don't even get to shift at redline, legally anyway.
Yeah, without going to jail.
Without going to jail, and you can. And, or you have to be real careful about where it is, or you have to hope that a deer doesn't run out. A friend of mine just showed me a video of him on the Autobahn, perfectly legal, going almost 200 miles an hour. And all I can think is, what about that deer?
Yeah.
How high are the fences along the Autobahn? They might be high enough, actually. Those Germans they think. But there's a lot of risk that goes with powerful cars. Now, on the flip side of that, stability control and traction control is far better than it's ever been.
Sure.
And you talk about saving lives. Traction control helps. Stability control is amazing. And it's getting to be so good that I've driven cars on track in the last 5 years a few times, and I don't know whether it's really on or not.
Wow.
Early on, you could tell, right? Sure. It's annoying. It would hit the brakes and you'd feel this, shut that thing off. I want to drive. Right. But nowadays, I go through a corner and I'm thinking, am I doing that beautiful drift? Or is the computer doing it for me? I can't really tell.
Yeah.
A good example of that is some of the latest McLarens. The McLarens have always been highly electronically controlled, the modern versions, since the MP412C. Yeah.
Yep. I know.
And the MP412C was annoying because I could drive it and I could go really fast, but guess what? I wasn't driving and I knew it. Even though the McLaren guy, I said, did you turn everything off? And he's like, yes, in some English accent I can't do. And I said, well, it's not. I'm not driving this car. Your computers are. Right. And they have gotten better kind of steadily. The Senna was a little bit of a step backwards. It's a little bit more wild and loose, but the 720S and the 600 LT the stability controls are so good that I know I turn them off, but I'm not sure they're really off. And maybe they aren't. I can't tell because the stability control has gotten so good. But that makes it easier to live with a powerful car on the street because you have this safety net for everything but straight line speed.
Sure. Yep.
It's tremendous help. But I want to feel like I'm driving.
Sure. That's why we're there. That's why we like manual transmission.
Yeah. But the high gearing and some of the manual transmission Porsches, like the Cayman GT4s, are splendid example. It's geared so tall that you don't get to shift at redline anyway.
Right.
Even on the racetrack, you're not shifting that much because it's geared so tall. It's curious. They have a reason, of course, but maybe to make sure it still stays slower than the 911.
I think it's so they can have one shift 0 to 60
Oh, wait, it goes 90.
in first though.
No. Oh, will it go 60 in first?
I don't know. Maybe they don't want to. If you had to do if you had second gear where you needed to shift it 58 or something lower, you'd have to get that extra shift. That was my theory.
You don't want to have that 2-3 shift in your 0 to 60. That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. But if you have a Miata and it redlines at 50 miles an hour in second gear, you have to.
Exactly.
It's fun. Miata, BRZ, Toyota A6, the lower power cars, you get to shift more. My Camaro, I have a 4-cylinder Camaro.
Yep.
And I got it on purpose because I thought I'd lose my license. 2, I might end up in a hospital if I had one of these 500 horsepower street cars. I just don't think that's a good idea for me. And so I love my Camaro because I can put my foot down and run it down the road a little bit, and I'm doing 63 miles an hour, not 106.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Randy, now is the time that we kind of put out there. We started this segment called the Fast and Furious Storytime Questions, and it kind of gets us to know you just a little bit better. And they're just like a little bit of rapid fire questions. But I'm very curious to find out these about you. Jennifer, you want to start it?
Yes.
Quick answers, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to be.
Yeah.
I'm not good at short answers.
That's okay.
It's
you
okay.
said rapid
It's a
fire,
good.
and that could be fun. But go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, it will be fun. All right. So, Randy, what's the worst car you've ever had?
That was my first.
Not going to be a
car.
short answer, is it, Randy?
I'm not getting short answers. That was my first car, but it was a wonderful car. It was just in terrible condition. Does that qualify?
It does. It does.
My very first car was that Fiat 850 Spider. And I drove it to high school. I traded a motorcycle for it because my other first cars were all motorcycles. And it is still the car that I have driven that had the most things wrong with it at the time that I was driving it on a public highway. That included no muffler at all. It wouldn't idle. So when I'm sitting at a light to keep it running with no muffler, I've got to rum, 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 rum. So the guy next to me thinks I want to race. It has a decrepit top that doesn't attach in the back, virtually no back window. It has no brakes, only enough. I use the hydraulic brakes to light the brake lights, and I stop it with the handbrake. And no clutch, or not much. The clutch slipped really badly, so it wouldn't stop, but it wouldn't go either. And it's a Fiat 850 Spider, which has all of 50 horsepower.
Yeah.
And so pulling away, I got really good at that slipping clutch. I could, judging the amount of friction I had to try to get it to move.
It's been fun on hills.
That's pretty much it. Those are all the things that were wrong with it at one time. Now, the other question about what the worst car is, I don't have a good answer for that because I love cars, and even the ones that had issues. I think if I were to pick a car that was really bad, it would be a car that was pretentious. Because if a car is at least trying to be honest about what it does, like I owned a Yugo. I had a very nice Yugo for quite a while, and it may yet come back to the fold. And it was a pretty terrible car in some of the dynamic.
But it
ways.
served its purpose in its place in history.
Yeah, it's basically a Fiat also, which is why I like it. But it's like a 1971 Fiat 128. It's pretty closely related to that.
Right.
So when you accelerate, for some reason, the McPherson struts go to full extension. They try to drive under the car. And it goes on and on. But okay. So that Fiat 850, only because there was so much wrong with it. Oh, I forgot. No floors.
That's awesome.
That is a car that taught me to look under it before you buy it. Always look under a car before you buy it. It had no floors. And it was only when I was in high school, that car was 3 or 4 years old. You kids are too young to remember, but cars used to rust out in a couple of years in the snow or in the salt on the beach.
Yep.
The northern cars rust from the bottom up. Southern cars rust from the top down, because northern cars get salt off the road,
Right.
and southern cars, well, beach cars, they get salt from the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get one of each, you could put them together and make a good car.
There you go. Just chop it in the middle. So, Randy, in when you were growing up, or it could have been a neighbor's car, could have been a Hot Wheels car, could have been a model, whatever. What car would be the taproot car that got you into cars, the one that kind of started this whole thing for you?
My mother says I was born with a toy car in my hand.
Well, there you go.
So we're going to have to go back pretty far.
Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels.
Was it the twin mill?
I still have my Hot Wheels.
Nice.
I have
We do too.
Really?
Yep.
Mine are in terrible condition though. They had a lot of miles on them. They were not show cars. Wait, let me think about a good answer for that. I can give you a good romantic answer. And that would be, I know something that was very special to me when I was a child with my toy cars. We had an HO racetrack set up.
Oh, yeah.
Electric cars that you drive like this.
Yep.
And we actually had a record book, and we'd write down lap times and all that. And I don't think I have one picture of that. Isn't that something?
Sounds like an eBay purchase in the making.
Yeah. I had an HO car. This would have been in the late 60s. That was a Ford GT40. And
oh, wow.
No. Let me go even better than that. I like the Chaparral.
Oh, wow.
I had a Chaparral. What do they call it? A 2J with the wing?
Don't know.
Yeah.
2J makes me think of the Honda engine, so I'm not thinking.
Youngster, 2JZ.
Yeah.
The Chaparral was the first car to have a wing, and it was American. And in fact, I just had a phone call from Jim Hall's son, Jim Hall Jr., just a week or two ago, just to say hi and talk cars.
Oh, cool.
And Jim Hall, the guy who built them, is still alive and is one of my heroes. They were amazingly successful. Mm-hmm. They were built and they were creative. They broke new ground. They got several things they did got outlawed because they were too good and nobody had thought of it before.
The fan car.
Like the fan car, very good.
Yeah.
The sucker car that sucked all the air out from under it to create downforce.
Yep.
And it was legal, but it was so good they made it illegal. The wings were made illegal, and they would move the wings. And what else did he have? Automatic transmission.
Yep.
He ran a car with an automatic transmission and won with it because it was better suited. For one thing, the driver's not going to mess up the engine as easily.
True.
And okay, so there you go. A Chaparral HO car, very important in my childhood. But I want to answer that in my adulthood. Something that I think a really significant car for me was the Datsun 510 two-door.
Okay.
It's the first car it's a car I had when I started autocrossing. I already had it because I liked corners.
Yeah. And
it had lowered suspension, and I could see it had an aftermarket rear sway bar on it, and the springs were orange, and it had a header. And I was born a sporty car guy, and I wanted it. And that car was very special to me, led me to autocross and a desire to race.
And it was light, handled pretty well.
It was good. Fortunately, it helped me.
Sure.
I learned some important lessons from it.
It's awesome. Miss Jen?
Front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, or four wheel drive, or does it even matter? You'll drive anything.
That's a good question. Yeah, they're all wonderful. I recently drove the best front wheel drive car I've ever driven. And that was a Honda Civic built by a team called Rocket Bunny.
Oh, yeah, we know.
You might know them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I drove it at Thunder Hill in Northern California. Rocket Bunny, these guys work for like NASA or SpaceX or something. They're rocket scientists.
Mhm.
They really are. But they've done front drive better than anybody else I've ever met. And I am imitating them with some of the stuff that we're using on a car that a friend of mine named Xin Feng built for me to race with him at Sonoma in a couple of weeks in Lucky Dog Racing League.
Nice.
So, but short answer, purity rear wheel drive. When I bought the Camaro, I wanted a rear wheel drive. I thought about a Civic. I thought about a Veloster N.
Mhm.
I thought about a Mini, but I wanted rear wheel drive. And plus, I like the way the Camaro looks. I think it's really pretty. It's blue.
Mhm.
I also have great respect for everything with a 1LE on it.
Mhm.
Chevy Camaro, Team Camaro, their track models are 1LE, and they're rare. They're not very many. It's a little bit of an expensive option. And in my experience, I've found them to be fabulous every single time to drive, especially on track. And on the all-wheel drive, what's interesting, for instance, the Porsche 911 Turbo S and some BMWs like a diesel wagon, late model. The all-wheel drive systems, the good ones, are now getting so good that they feel like rear-wheel drive.
Oh,
They
okay.
just have more traction. They can do the little power drift that we love so much in a rear-wheel drive. And the Turbo S does that, and it's seamless. You can't tell it's all-wheel drive. It just has more traction than you would ever expect.
Right.
But narrowed down, short answer, Jennifer, is rear-wheel drive. That's still.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Randy, let me see. What is
Why?
that one? What is that one
ask
car
you
that
a
got
question.
away? Huh?
Oh,
Why do you like rear-wheel drive?
Why do I like it?
Yeah.
because she hates front wheel drive.
Well, I had a bad
Little
experience
squirrely.
in front wheel drive because front wheel drives are a lot of fun when you're driving on the street, but when I got really used to a rear wheel drive, I decided to take a front wheel drive out onto the racetrack, and it did not perform well for me at all.
Gary Lou Retton had the same problem in the Toyota Celebrity race at Long Beach.
Really.
Yeah.
It
But I
was-
could help you with that if I ever get a chance to coach you.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's just, well, the thing is like, yes, of course, yes. But 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 I also just in that process very, very quickly, it is just, they have to be approached differently when you're on the racetrack. That applying gas when you're going into a turn, when you start losing the back end, is what's going to correct the car versus letting off the gas if you're in a rear wheel. And that was something that was not very apparent when I had hopped in. I tried to drive my front wheel like a rear wheel, and it was disastrous.
no kidding. What happened? I mean, what did you find?
Well,
Well, she
I-
got to see the track from facing forward and backwards all in the
okay,
same lap.
when I was in Portland,
Yeah.
in the chicane along the front, after the hot pits, there was a chicane. You were
Yeah.
at that race.
The tight
I-
one. Yeah.
I was going full in, hit that chicane, and I literally had done a 360. And I didn't intend to, but I did, because I had lost it going in there, and it kept going. And knowing that I was going, I just kind of stepped on it, and I continued to spin and went out. And I remember, because we were getting to know all the workers on the track, because we were the first one in the hot pit, and they were like, "Have you ever seen anybody do a 360 right there?" And they're like, "Nope."
You're the first.
Yeah,
No.
that was me.
Okay. Now, Vicki, let's not blame all of that on front wheel drive.
No.
That car was probably kind of dicey already. Was that the car I blew the engine in?
Oh yes.
Yeah, Hondas have a
It was very
very
loose.
sophisticated rear suspension that is
Mhm.
designed to reduce understeer. And plus, depending on the setup, it was very loose.
It-
And for the most part, front wheel drive cars, people complain that they understeer too much.
Mm-hmm.
And so race teams will often adjust them to try to minimize that or get rid of it. And that may have been part of what you experienced.
Yeah, I mean, I
Don't
had a
write it off
Golf.
just yet.
No.
Try the city
Actually,
bike
we're getting ready to put a Honda on.
Team.
And yeah, we're actually building a Honda. We're converting a sprint car into an endurance car, and we have a track. Well, our garage is at an airfield, so we're going to be taking our Honda and test driving it on the airfield first, and try to see if we can kind of get those turns in, and then we're going to start taking that to the HPDEs just so we can get used to it, because we'll also be running a rear wheel at the same time. Well, we're going to be bouncing back and forth, which I am not a fan of that idea of having two different types of cars like that on our race team. So,
Well, Vicki, when the cars handle well,
mhm,
it's no longer that different, especially with lower power.
mhm,
Because, but one important difference between a front drive and a rear drive is that in a front drive, power only gives you understeer.
mhm,
Unless you have a locked differential and they have a really wild setup on it, like one of those crazy VWs I've driven up there with Lucky Dog,
mhm.
that would actually oversteer on power, which was amazing in a front wheel drive car.
Mhm.
But when they handle well, it's really not that different.
No.
You still slow down until you know you're going to make the apex,
Mhm.
and you still add power as long as you still hold your line to hit the apex and get the track out you want.
Right.
It's not that different. You get in trouble if somebody has set up your front drive car really loose. And
This one was kind of like a pit bull.
It was.
And it was not something that I was accustomed to. Not to mention that was the one that had the door folded down on the side,
Yes.
which just kind of had you exposed to like everything. It was terrifying.
Yes.
And honestly, at that particular race, it was terrifying to be out there anyway, because I have never driven it a front wheel before. So
No.
I was a hot mess out there.
Right out into the rain.
Completely. And I'm like, I don't know if we had chosen right.
I think I saw you.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think everybody saw me. I distinctly remember my son saying, "Get me out of this death trap."
Really?
He did.
That was the setup. That was a setup. Don't you worry.
Well, I'm excited. Well, we had another friend take us out in it, and in a Honda, and I do remember driving it a little bit differently. Like I said,
You were also relatively new. That was only your 6th race.
That's true.
So you've gotten a lot better. So don't write off front wheel drive so much.
All right. But
Civic Type R, Veloster N, Audi TT, VW GTI. A VW GTI, the later model ones, very tame cars to drive. In fact, too much understeer for me.
I tell you what, I love my Golf. I really do.
GTI.
What?
I did?
She had a GTI.
I had a lot of cars.
You just never tracked it?
I never tracked it. Mm-mm.
Yeah. See?
Yeah.
It didn't try to kill you.
No, not at all.
What year?
But, what year was that, Bill?
It was a Mark 7. I think it was a 16.
Yeah, so I'm thinking it was
that's exactly the car I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Very friendly.
It was a very good car to drive. Actually, when I test drove it, and this is when I kind of really fell in love with it, was that I took the salesperson out, and I wasn't racing at the time, but apparently I terrified him when I was in there, because I was hitting the back roads like I was driving a race car.
Yes.
Oh, I think we were started, didn't we?
No,
we didn't.
not yet. No.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. But anyway, what is that one car? Did we ask that already?
No.
No.
I don't think.
Did we ask that one car that got away?
No.
Oh.
Yeah. You had a car and you wish you had it back.
Yeah. Wait a minute. There was one that popped to mind right away when you said that. I'm going to try to think if there's another one that got away.
They seem to come back, Randy. I'm just saying.
It's funny. I'm getting two answers to that.
No, that's fine. It's your podcast. You can say 2 answers.
There was a car when I raced for Audi in 2003 in World Challenge. I had a company car, and in 2003 it was the team was called Champion Racing. They were from South Florida. Dave Mirage, God rest his soul, wonderful man, sponsored the team, but we weren't real close. We were Audi friendly because he ran an Audi R8 in the prototype category as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we had this team, and I got a car, and it was an Audi A4 Avant. I like wagons, and it was the 4-cylinder turbo, not the V6. And it had Champion Racing had put a little bit of a suspension kit on it. They put a body kit on it that I think was an Audi accessory called Aero Kit. And they put their own in-house wheels on it and an exhaust system and a tune, and it was a stick. And I like wagons anyway. That was such a cool car. I loved it. I loved the way it ran. I liked the way it handled. I liked the way it looked. It was just cool all around. And the next year, the team got a full factory sponsorship in 2004. I won the championship in 2003, by the way, in the Audi RS6 in World Challenge. And the next year, we got a factory sponsorship, and I got a company car. I got to pick virtually any new Audi I wanted. And I didn't want a new Audi. I wanted to keep the car I had. And because one deal was with Champion Racing, the dealership, and the other deal was with Audi North America, there was just no way to do that. I tried. Right. I said, can't I just keep this car? I love this car. And I got a really nice one. I got another Audi Avant, and it was blue, and I got the V6, but it was not as cool as the black one that was lowered with the body kit and the pumped up turbo. And I mean, you know, the kind of car when you're driving it and kids come by and they're videoing you with their cameras. That was common. It was cool. I loved driving it. Well, that car got away. I wanted to keep it and I couldn't. And it went off to auction somewhere and was gone.
Wow.
Okay. So our next question is, what is the fastest you've ever driven? So everybody wants to know.
You know what's funny is I race cars, but for many years I ran little PP cars. I ran the Firestone Firehawk series. I ran touring cars that were 2 liters. I road raced. So the fastest I would ever go would be at Daytona.
Right.
And the number was not that impressive. I raced Porsches for years, and we got into we were in the 160s and around 2000. And then by the late 2000s, it was 170s. And by the 2000 teens, Porsches would go into the 180s. But that didn't impress people. You know, when you tell them you've done 172, they're like, I did that on the Autobahn in Germany. And recently, though, I did set my personal land speed record. And that was at a Motor Trend test at Vandenberg Air Force Base when we did a half-mile drag race. Mm-hmm. And we kept going. Jethro Bovingdon, Jonny Lieberman, and I. Jethro he's English, so he was in the McLaren, and I think it was a 720S, because it was only maybe 2 years ago. And Jonny was in the Lamborghini Huracan Performante, and I was in a Porsche GT2 RS, one of my all-time favorite cars. Mm-hmm. And so we did the half-mile drags, but we just kept going because we had another half mile or more of runway out there. And it was a fascinating drag race between these cars because the Lamborghini was all-wheel drive, but it was only rated at 610 horsepower only. Right. Whereas the GT2 RS was 690, I think. And then the McLaren is 720. And everybody knows McLarens are underrated. Typically, they have some crazy number, but their real power is even more. And so we leave the line, and the Lamborghini is all-wheel drive, and it's naturally aspirated. Those two advantages gave the Lamborghini a car length, boom, on the GT2 RS. And the McLaren, same thing, not as good off the line. But the McLaren is so bloody fast, it drove away from Jonny and I, and we're going 100, 150, 180. And I'm liking this because I'm thinking, I bet this car will go 200, and I've never gone 200 before in a car. And the whole time, though, that dang Lamborghini is a car length ahead of me. And I'm thinking, I got 690 horsepower. He's got 610. I'm going to start reeling him in here any minute now. The whole time, the McLaren stayed that car length ahead of me. Not the McLaren, the Lamborghini.
Right.
And I never caught him. And we got all the way to 204 miles an hour in the Porsche and the Lamborghini. He was going the same speed I was, but he was a car length ahead of me. Even at 204. Wow. I could never catch that Lamborghini. But the McLaren was going bye-bye and getting further and further away the whole time. And he said, Jethro said he saw 214. Oof. And but that was, for me, I was 204. That's the fastest I've ever gone in a car. And it was a dead stock street car on a shuttle landing strip.
Well, I mean, it's always fun because people, they hear we're race drivers, which is an extension of the word, and then they always ask how fast you go. And it's like, it's not that impressive, I mean,
no.
Our average lap last weekend was 64 miles an hour and whatever.
Oh, the average lap is terrible. I can't really give that number.
I know.
Like we raced at Indy several times, the road course at Indy, the Formula One course. Mm-hmm. And Indy is this traditional, very traditional racetrack. And they publish the times, and they do it like they do on the Indy 500. They didn't even give you the lap time. They gave the average speed. And well, in a street stock series Miata, that's like 68 miles an hour.
Exactly.
Maybe it was more than that. It was probably 80. But, Indy cars are going 230.
Yeah.
And I'm going, hey, at least tell them our top speed. Don't tell them our average speed, 80 miles. Oh, I went quicker than that on my way here.
I do that on the highway. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Randy, with your vast number of cars you've driven, this is one that everybody wants to know the answer to. We are going to try to win a lottery and buy a desert island and put a racetrack on it. But we want our guests to be able to be happy when they come visit us. So what 5 cars do we need to have on our island for you?
Oh, wait a minute. Is it for me or is it for the guests who are going to be happy?
Well, you're our guest. All our podcast guests are invited.
I am the guest.
You are the guest. So I need 5 cars that you want.
I would love to give these amazing answers, but some of them are pretty trite, like 427 Cobra.
Okay.
We've had a taco truck.
Yeah. We've had Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. So, your
original.
Exactly.
427 Cobra, like Dan Gurney and Bob Bondurant drove.
Uh-huh.
I've never driven one, and I want to try one like they drove. I want to see what they experienced.
With those tires too?
Yes, everything.
Nice. Okay.
Brakes, especially brakes, because the brakes must have been terrible back then.
I would think.
They were terrible in the 80s they must have really been terrible in the 60s.
I can't imagine.
Back when you actually had to downshift to slow a car down.
Yeah.
I did a VinWiki short about the car that cost independent I would most like to own. And I don't really want to own it as much as I want to drive. Actually, I want to own it too. The Silver Arrows from the 30s.
Okay. Yeah.
Auto Union had a mid-engine V16 race car that Hans Stuck Sr. drove. and Bernd Rosenmeyer, I think, and all these guys. Anyway, I want to drive that mid-engine V16 car from the 30s.
Okay.
That was, I believe, was an auto union.
Mhm.
So that's two. If I want to have a car that will keep running and that I just find to be one of the most satisfying and enjoyable track cars I've ever driven long term, that would be the car I mentioned a minute ago, a Porsche GT2 RS.
Mhm.
That car is just so well balanced and so powerful and so rewarding to drive because of those things that I would like to have that car there, so I could just run and run and run, right?
Yep.
What else? That's only three. I get two more.
Two more. We're generous kind of crew. Yeah?
Gosh. You know what? I'm going to want a real Formula One car.
Which one would you want?
Lewis Hamilton's car.
The new one? The
Yeah.
2020, 2021,
Yeah.
whatever. Okay.
20. We don't know what its 21 car is yet, do we? Or maybe we do from the test.
I heard it's not going to be that different.
Oh, I'd like to try that just to see what those guys are driving.
Sure.
And then, of course, I'd want to see if I could do the lap time. But
so we'll get Lewis to come out with you.
Yeah, something I've learned, though, those cars pull a lot of G-force.
Mm-hmm.
And that really affects the driving experience. And guess what? I have driven the Audi R18 that won at Le Mans, and I have driven the Porsche 919 that won at Le Mans a year or two after that.
Wow.
But kind of, journalist adjusted.
Shepherded a little bit.
Yeah, they didn't have the full power and everything. But the downforce, it would take a lot of time to generate the confidence that I could go through the corner as fast as those cars will go at speed. Downforce is ridiculously incredible. And then I get one more.
One more.
What would be a cool car for this desert island track experience?
There's a dirt track course as well if you want to have one for that as well.
I've always wanted to race a dirt car.
I know. I watch your videos.
There you go. Or rally cars. Is there a rally course?
Absolutely.
I think I'm going to need a Group B rally car, although they're even better now. Hyundai has a rally team, and I visited them as a Motor Trend journalist about a year ago, and I hadn't been paying much attention to rally, and it's incredible the jumps they can do and land controlled.
Mm-hmm.
At 1,000 miles an hour, a mile in the air, and they come down and any other car would explode and the thing soaks it up. Poof. And it doesn't look like a trophy truck. It doesn't have that kind of Baja, 28 inches of travel, whatever. The technology there fascinates me. That it would be between a modern rally car and a Juan Manuel Fangio's car, either a Ferrari or an Alfa from the 50s Grand Prix, because of the skinny tires and the way they could drift them.
Yeah.
I would love to try that.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my 5.
Cool.
Okay.
Those are very good ones.
So our next question is, where would your ultimate road trip be to and from, and in what car?
He's been all over the place.
Ultimate road trip.
It doesn't have to be in the U.S.
Can it be on a motorcycle?
Absolutely.
I understand that he has quite the motorcycle collection.
I do. I'm really a bike guy. But unfortunately, I have low enough of a survival instinct to race cars, but I don't have low enough of a survival instinct to race motorcycles.
I fully understand.
Even when I was 14 years old, I didn't want to race a motorcycle because I looked at that and I went, I'm going to hurt my body and I don't want to do that. But anyway, the obvious answer for me is my ultimate road trip I am trying to do. And it would be on a motorcycle on something called the Trans Am Trail. Any of you
Okay.
ever heard of the Trans Am Trail?
I haven't.
The
Not
Trans Am
placing it.
Trail is a route across America on as much dirt road as possible.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It's 5,000 miles and it is legal. And it gets kind of hairy out west. And at Christmas, I actually did about 500 miles of it in the east in a borrowed Jeep.
Mhm.
And that was a little too easy. It was beautiful, little bitty back roads. And by the time we got to Mississippi, we started getting more dirt roads. And the coolest part was the water crossings. They could be kind of hairy. And I think that's pretty cool when the road, like the public highway, goes through a creek. I could show you some cool pictures. And but if that road trip in a car, not as interesting. The ultimate road trip for a car
You can have a motorcycle. It's okay.
I think the ultimate road trip for me in a car would start in Andalusia, which is on the border of Spain and Portugal. No,
Mhm.
Spain and France. Right? Am I right? That's Andalusia.
No, it's on the
And-
border. I don't remember
Yeah.
where.
It would cross Alpine passes all the way to the Nürburgring, and it would end there. That would be my ultimate road trip.
Okay.
So, Randy, what is your favorite track so far?
The Nürburgring is
Ah.
wins by miles
Really?
because it's like combining all my other favorite tracks into one track.
Hmm.
But it also makes every other racetrack look like a kiddie go-kart track.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever been there?
Not yet. It's on the list.
Most of the tracks you drive, what gears are you in most of the time?
Third and fourth, usually.
Third and fourth. At the Nürburgring, most of the time, you're in fifth and sixth. And you're in corners. They're not straightaways. The speeds are outrageous. And guess what? If you don't have 400 horsepower, half the corners there disappear. You're going too slow.
Right.
It's not a corner. It's a curving straightaway. It's that outrageous. And there are a few slow corners, but a lot of the Nürburgring is really, really fast. And it's very difficult to learn. Now, so that's my favorite track on earth that I've ever been to.
So what's your favorite turn?
Ooh,
Ooh.
Everybody has one.
that's
He's-
a lot harder.
He's got thousands of them.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's been all over.
It will be an uphill corner.
Okay.
A corner that goes uphill
Oh,
because I like the way the car grips and I like the
the
difficult.
downforce.
Yes, and the associated difficulty in choosing the line to do that. Like I'm fast at Watkins Glen because I know something about Watkins Glen that almost nobody else knows.
Do you want to share it?
That I do there. And for years, I've seen myself catch good drivers there, which is very rare to catch a good driver anywhere. But I can catch most good drivers. Yeah, sure, I'm old. But I wouldn't say this is my favorite corner, but it's similar. Wow, favorite corner is really hard. Gosh. But at Watkins Glen, it's the toe of the boot.
Okay.
Pardon me. Toe of the boot.
That's a good one.
Yeah, you're going downhill on the way in.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a 180, kind of big, middle of third gear, maybe, steep uphill. So you're going downhill on the way in. And just about the time you turn in, you go steep uphill. Well, this gives you a tremendous amount of grip. And if you start the corner wide and try to make a nice wide road racing line to open up your radius, you have to do that before the corner goes uphill. and it's too soon. You don't have the grip to keep your speed up.
Yeah, you slide out.
You slide out, and you actually have to overslow the entry. That's where I get them, is on entry. The key is turn early with a lot of speed, but keep braking lightly, and use that uphill to be your part of your brakes and your downforce, so that even though you're on this lousy line because you turned early, you're coming in real early, the downforce lasts long enough that you can get to the same line at least the same speed as the guy that went out wide and made a wide radius.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my secret at Watkins Glen. The other secret there for more novice drivers is that the corners at Watkins Glen are all banked, and it's wonderful. I mean, Watkins Glen might be my favorite North American track. No, American track. I love the banking, but one corner is not. One corner is even maybe a little off camber. That's coming out of the boot. It's turn 9, coming out of the boot. And so it makes it very difficult. You're driving the whole rest of the track. You're going around these bank turns like, oh yeah, this car is handling great. And you get to that one corner, and if you don't pay attention to the camber, it's like your car's a piece of junk. It doesn't stick. It's like, what's the matter with this thing? The car doesn't handle. I can't get back to power. Blah, blah. Everybody goes to power too soon in turn 9. You have to be a little patient and wait because you got no grip. And so that's a challenge of driving Watkins Glen, is turn 9 is the only corner that's not banked. Now, my favorite corner, oh,
It's like children for you.
I think my favorite, yeah, it is.
What is your name? Go through 3 names before you get to the one.
It's so hard. But I'm leaning towards, and it's not because I like driving it, although I do. I'm leaning towards it because I like the uniqueness of it. It's completely unique and it's fun. The corkscrew at Laguna Seca.
Really?
Because there's nothing like it anywhere. And the way you go leaping off the Niagara Falls and drop into that right-hander is fabulous. And the fact that it works, how does that even work? You would think that it would break cars or that people would crash, but it works. From IndyCar to Spec Miata, it works. Utterly unique. I've seen people try to sort of imitate it and fail miserably. But that, I guess I'll say that. The corkscrew. It's kind of trite.
Nice. We'll ask you again next time, and you can ask another one. There you go.
So,
Yeah.
Randy, how do we keep in contact with you? Or how does one follow you or your team?
Fortunately, I was
You have a
blessed.
YouTube channel.
I was blessed with a name that nobody else has, if you spell it right. P as in
Yes.
Peter,
No.
O, B as in boy, S-T. And so that's a blessing, because I got a friend named John Stein. He's a writer, and there's 3 other writers named John Stein. So he's John L. Stein. Bill Fisher. There would be 18 Bill Fishers.
Well aware. Yep.
Randy Pobst. There aren't any other Randy Pobst. So on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, I'm Randy Pobst, at Randy Pobst, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for asking. And my YouTube channel is my current greatest endeavor now. I want to get big like Mr. Beast. Does anybody know who Mr. Beast is?
No.
Oh.
He's my
Who's that?
YouTube hero.
Okay.
He's about a 20-year-old kid who has given away as much as, what was it? It was either $1 million or $100,000.
Wow.
He came from nothing, but he built such a huge following on YouTube, and he reinvested a lot of the money that he started making to do crazy things like walk up to a homeless guy and give him $100,000, and he films it, and people watch it. So he has something like 30 million subscribers.
Wow.
So he gets good advertisers,
Mhm.
and he gets a lot of money from YouTube. You have to get a lot of subscribers and views to make money on YouTube. And if you do, you make a lot of money. And he's this young kid, Mr. Beast. And people line up to see what's he going to do next. Like it was like his 20 millionth or 30 millionth subscriber. He gave that guy 40 cars.
Wow.
He just drove, knocked on the door, and is John Smith here? And it was amazing. It's this cool kid, because his audience is young. It's this cool kid who's probably in high school even, or I don't know, young, cool kid. Comes to the door. He says, "Hi, you're our 30 millionth subscriber." And he throws the door open. "We're giving you these 40 cars."
Wow.
But he took it a step further. He said, actually, you get to keep the Tesla. The other ones, you got to give them all away in 24 hours, or you don't get to keep the Tesla.
Oh, wow.
And so the guy's calling everybody he knows. "Hey, you want a car? Come get a car." They go to Walmart and get the checkout person, bring
Exactly.
This car's for you. And
Wow.
that stuff's really fun. I don't think I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing more simple track car stuff, like I'm doing, like the Firebird.
Well, Randy, if you ever get your YouTube channel to the size where you need to give away cars, you just let us know.
I'll call you first.
We'll help you out. We got at least 3 of them covered for you.
Careful what you wish for.
Well, trust me, I don't mind. We'll turn it into a race car. That's all I'm saying. We'll do it.
Oh, good for you.
All right. Thank you, Randy. We appreciate you coming on again. Look forward to seeing you at the track again. We'll be watching. Would really love head to head to come back. Perhaps even your own channel show that was on there, the racing line. That was awesome.
Keep watching, Bill. There are wheels turning.
I like wheels turning.
We are so excited.
That's right.
So am I, but I don't get excited until it gets a lot further down the road. But yeah, there's possibilities.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Bill. Thank you, Jennifer. Vicky.
Thank you so
pleasure.
much. This was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun.
All right. Thank you, Randy. Have a great night.
Dominating with Dawson.
Ben, we had this BMW. It had Deadpool on the side. Wait, that's not the subject. I'm sorry. Hello, Ben.
Hello.
So I thought that one of the things we should talk about was the dead pedal, what it is, how to use it. And you said, that seems very stupid. And I said, that's why I want to talk about it.
Whoa, I just said I don't know much about this topic. I didn't say it was stupid. I'm saying teach me how to use it better to dominate. I just don't know anything about the dead pedal. I never think about a dead pedal.
Okay. So speaking as someone who drove a car with a good dead pedal and somebody who drove the exact same car with a very bad dead pedal, the dead pedal to me is the pedal that is off to the left where your left foot is able to get good support.
Right.
And to me, it's somewhat critical because it basically secures me in the car, in the seat.
I got you. Yeah, I was sorry. I should back up and say I know what a dead pedal is. I just never never think about it because I definitely have had it in and out of different cars, and it hasn't occurred to me. So I just was ready to hear more about it. So it's part of anchoring the car, just like a seatbelt.
It is
for you as far as it locates you in the car.
It locates me in the car. It keeps me stable in the car. It takes a little bit of stress off my upper body because I don't have to hold the steering wheel. And that gives me the ability to have a little more feel. But it also connects me to the feel of the car, I think, a little better.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I can understand that.
Because I've got my feet, I've got my butt, and I've got my hands.
Right.
And then
so it's another point of contact.
Right. And then I've got my ears, which, should be listening. And that's kind of how I do that with my vision. And I try and figure out it is. But the key that I think that some people don't do is their seat position. So if you have, let's pretend we have, as all good race cars should have, 3 pedals down at the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When your clutch is all the way in, or your brakes are all the way in, your knee should have a little bit of a bend in.
Right. Yeah. You don't have your leg fully extended.
You don't want to lock out. Like,
yeah. Unfortunately, somebody raced in my Miata one time, and he had to leave the belt a little loose so he could get full extension and full like engagement on the clutch. But
that's not ideal.
Funny story. We won the first WRL race in the Southeast overall in a super half-ass spec Miata with that guy driving that way. And now I think they just had 90 cars at COTA in the middle of a plague. And there was a NASCAR team that was masquerading in there, a Camaro and all this kind of stuff, and all these factory race cars. And I won the first Southeastern race in a Miata.
Things change.
Times are changed. That was 5 years ago.
They're a little faster now.
Yeah, how about that?
But what I have seen, and I've had people tell me that no, this is how I like to be, is they've had their foot all the way straight on the clutch, their left foot, and then equally they had their foot all the way straight on the dead pedal, which sets you up should you get into a bad accident.
Seems like a jammer to me.
Is not good for your knee.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be a straight leg. It seems like it would just kind of jam a bunch of stuff up into your hip, and
yeah,
I don't know,
not good.
bad.
So you want to be able to secure yourself going around a turn on the dead pedal, but you want to have a little bit of flex in your knee so that you can absorb bumps and potentially bruises.
There's some flexibility. It sounds like not like a hard point, but something like a suspension point for
like
your body.
A shock.
Sort of.
Yeah. Like if you're jumping a bike, don't have your legs straight on your pedals.
I think I'm less in thinking about dead pedals because I think I always have my left foot hovering. I guess I'm a left foot breaker, so I think it's just kind of always.
Oh, you're a left foot breaker. Okay. Well, I'm not a left foot breaker.
Anytime that I'm not shifting gears, I'm using my left foot for the braking. It's just sort of always present up there. So I don't think I'm doing dead pedal, but also I don't have much as far as butt. So I guess my negative butt area is doing all the work. But I guess could be better.
So let's. I didn't think about it from a left foot breaker. So left foot breaker, if you're doing threshold braking, essentially your brake pedal is almost a dead pedal for part of the brake zone.
I mean, it's not like I just have my leg just laying there and sitting on it like I would a dead pedal, I guess.
No, but if you're coming into a turn from a long straightaway and you're hitting that threshold brake, you're for the first part until you start to trail brake, that's almost a dead pedal because you're almost fully pushing on the brake. Well,
yeah, I mean, if it's a big brake zone, I think I would have my right foot on the brake pedal, just doing heel toe as the left foot. So probably doing. Okay. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I guess if I'm thinking a bit, I just automatically assume if it's a big braking moment, I'm probably going to change gears. So I'll just assume it was a right foot brake. That's true. At that spot.
Yeah, I don't think about left foot breakers.
When you're left foot braking, like it might be places where you're kind of wound out in third gear, and you might just slap like going into turn and 3 at Laguna Seca or somebody might be kind of topping out third gear and just hitting the brake a little bit to put the nose down and get going, or turn 4. It depends on what car you're in. That's one of those ones where you're kind of really wound up, got a lot of momentum going, and you're just going to do a little bit of brake just to kind of set the nose. It's a little bit different kind of situation. So you would probably do that with your left foot, but when you're talking about like bombing into turn 1 at Road Atlanta, you're going to be doing it with your right foot and changing gears.
So you're a left foot breaker of convenience, but not
right.
All the time.
Only in situations where I don't need to shift gears. Sometimes if it's a long enough braking zone, and I think I could do better stuff with my other foot, I might switch from right and just replace it with my left, just to be doing some better stuff with my other foot. But that needs to be a pretty long braking zone for me to kind of swap them out.
Okay. Sorry. So let's
long, or it might be if it's a place where there's a lot of stuff going on, and I think I might be better off, I will switch feet on the pedal as I'm braking.
Okay. So let's pretend that Ben Dawson's got his new race car.
Okay.
And his new race car is let's think of something that has really nice dual clutch. Let's say it's a Porsche Cayman race car.
Sure.
It's got the dual clutch paddles.
Ooh, sounds so fancy.
It does sound fancy. It sounds totally not like what we're doing. That's why we're in fantasy land.
Yeah, I mean, where are the sponsors are right knocking on the door to make this happen, I'm sure.
Yes, especially now with all the millions that they're rolling in with everybody not buying anything.
Right.
So what would Ben Dawson, left foot braking Ben Dawson, do if he's in a flappy paddle car? No clutch.
Do you mean which foot do I ever touch the brakes with?
Yeah, would you ever touch the brake with your right foot? I don't think you would.
No. Nope. Never would.
Okay. All right. So somehow we got to dead pedals to flappy paddles, but that's okay.
What a magical journey.
That's right. You never know where we end up. So
Yeah,
I'm guessing
baby.
from our discussion that maybe the dead pedal is more important to a right foot breaker than it is to a left foot breaker.
It's true for me, so I can only speak for my own self. But I think you would have to go watch a bunch of footwell cameras of different drivers to really confirm that maybe I'm not the weirdo. Also, when I first started learning how to heel toe, it was in my Miata, and I still had the stock steering wheel, which is a little bit bigger than you would get if you had a detachable,
Right.
Nice racing wheel. So I had to learn how to heel toe backwards with my heel on the brake, and I was blipping the throttle with the ball of my foot and the toes. So that was the only way I could accommodate my knee up under all that to make it happen. So some of this stuff, you may not be perfect in the execution. It may evolve as you learn, but now I can do it both ways, and it's pretty flexible. So food for thought.
All I have to say is, by looking at people's footwell cameras, that is still not going to confirm that you're not the weirdo, but it could.
I definitely am the weirdo, and just may not be for that particular reason.
Exactly. We may just have a new reason.
Yeah.
So okay.
We both grasped it now.
Yes, we're on the same page now. Very good. All right. I think we've beaten this dead pedal into the ground.
I hate to be a dead pedal.
Exactly. All right. 6 foot deep, dead pedal. Bye.
Bye.
So like I said, we basically just do the hand signals just so we don't talk over each other. We still end up doing it, but we try.
I can't help it. It just happens.
I think his nickname's the bulldozer.
Yeah. Said ADD kicks in. I got to say it before I forget it.
Honey, me too. Exactly.
Hey, I know you got ADD.
Oh, the thoughts just go like this. If I don't, it's gone.
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's my life.
That's why we like racing.
Good thing you can't think when you're racing, Randy.
Can't.
No
It's all
time.
reflex.
That is true. Are we on yet?
Oh, we're always on. We're just haven't started.
Story?
We can get rolling.
You
ready?
I got a story for you about
Oh
that.
yeah.
You got a
I'd like
story?
to hear a story.
All right.
About ADD and oh gosh, what did we just say about thinking versus happens in reflex? I think you said.
Mhm.
I had a friend who's also a track driver, racer, and he was some super high guru, ninja, black belt, jujitsu, karate guy. And I remember watching some dumb Jackie Chan movie.
Sure.
And not long after, I asked my buddy, I said, hey, when you're in martial arts up to your neck, you're at a real high level. How do you know what move to make? And he said, oh no, practice. He says, you don't have time to think.
Right.
You has to be in your subconscious. It has to already be there. And that's exactly like driving in traffic or car control. If you think, okay, I'm sliding, correct, I got it, recover. No, you have to be on a skid pad and spin out about 50 times and get that, like Karate Kid, right?
Mhm.
Wax on, wax off. Remember
That's
that
right.
movie?
That's right.
Paint
That's
the
right.
paint the brush, whatever it was.
Paint-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Up and
paintbrush.
down.
Yes,
Up
yes.
and down.
And that's why skid pad training is really so important. And it's why autocross can be good for ways to learn without wrecking your car.
Well, we actually just did that, and I tell
Wreck your
you,
car?
no,
All three actually.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. No,
We wrecked
No,
our
we-
car at the Lucky Dog race in Charlotte.
too.
We did the skid pad and we did autocross. So yeah.
no, but we did the skid pad, and then like I would say about 8 days later, we end up at a race. Oh, no, it wasn't a race; it was a track
HPDE.
day, an
HPDE.
HPDE, and that was the first time right after that skid pad, and after all the HPDE training that I had done and all the racing that I've done so far. After that skid pad is when everything started to knit itself together.
Oh,
It started to make sense. It's like I could start feeling the weight of the car. I started feeling the tires. I started feeling the back end versus the front end. And I started feeling the weight transfer. And I was like, oh, we got to do so many more skid pads.
that's wonderful.
It was right after that. It was like the big aha moment. I'm like, I get it now. I can feel the car.
Wow. Who was your instructor?
It was
Bill?
John Murphy up at Lime Rock. I think he used to work with Skip
Oh.
Barber.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're on the skid pad at Lime Rock?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that's a classic. I used to teach there in 2008, 9, 10, 11.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Not 2000. Oh, gosh. 89, 90, 91, 90.
Give or take a couple decades.
Yeah,
Whatever.
back when you were in high school or whatever.
Yeah, high school. Well, no, I was in grad school, but yeah. Very well. So
I'm
you want to
happy for you.
officially start and we'll get it rolling? We'll use this. We'll use the
Absolutely.
story. Don't worry.
We'll be splicing.
I edit things.
Yep.
Basically because we screw things up, but that's okay. All right. I do want to apologize for blowing the video on the last one. We just had a microphone that went out and then it came back in, so we lost half of it. But we're going to corral you back to the great story that nobody could ever hear.
Yeah.
It should be fun. All right.